Cafe Kubal Studios. Cafe Kubal hanging out here with you and bringing you their fantastic coffees and everything that they have to offer. I'm always a huge fan of Cafe Kubal. Been a fan of Cafe Kubal for a long time here. It's the only place I get my chais, and that's where I live. I live in that chai world with the almond milk and either the brown sugar or the honey, the mint, the pumpkin. A lot of great stuff at Cafe Kubal, and I love heading out there. The chocolate chip banana bread is second to none, and I'm happy that not only, I've gone from a time where people wanted to go and, they'd go to Cafe Kubal, and then I would suggest to them, hey, you got to get this chocolate chip banana bread. And now we're at a place where they're getting it on their own without me having to say a word, which to me is a victory. So make sure you get out to Cafe Kubal today and enjoy what they have to offer. And thank you for all that they do on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York, inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse, the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at their Sweetheart Corner drive-through location, first ever drive-through for them in North Syracuse, and of course on 343 Fayette Street in the Double Decker Cafe in Manlius, in the what I call the Welcome Center of Manlius. So plenty of ways to get involved, and we appreciate everybody that does so every single day of the week. A cup of coffee goes a long way, and I know that you know that, so make sure you head out there today. With that being said, I am so extremely happy that we have the opportunity to bring you today's guest. Papa Joe obviously is in his normal post where he is every single Thursday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Today we're going to be talking about the field of play, speaking on the NFL field and the MLB field as well as we head closer to the draft, and obviously we head into the MLB season where them games are going to start counting. So very excited about that. Inside of MonPazPopcorn.com is what's popping. And then in hour number 2 at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time, I'm very happy to say that we are going to be joined by a fantastic human being, and that being Miss Gabby Holko, who's going to be rejoining the show. We met when she was coaching at Marywood University for the women's basketball team, and now she's been over for a couple seasons at Susquehanna with the Riverhawks inside of the Landmark Conference, and we're going to talk about where women's basketball is today. What is the state of women's basketball, the growth of the women's tournament, and just the takeaways that she has, and being proud to be a woman in sports and to see herself well represented, and just what that means to her. And we will continue that conversation from the viewpoint of Katie Kolinski, a good friend of mine who spent 7 years on Jim Boeheim's staff, making history as the first woman to ever serve as a grad assistant on the Syracuse men's basketball team, and she did it for over half a decade with 7 years, and is now the Lafayette Leopards Division I women's basketball assistant coach. So a lot of great stuff, and we'll also talk about life as a single mother and what she's done to try and juggle being a coach, a mom, and take care of herself, because she truly is her own superhero. So we got a lot of great stuff coming up here where sports meets that thing called life, and I'm always excited to have the conversation. So with that being stated, let's bring in our first person of this broadcast, and the one that brings us into every Thursday broadcast, and that is the man that we refer to as the Go-So, grand old smooth one, PJ, as well as Papa Joe. And he is a fantastic human being, a father figure in my life, and they don't make him better than PJ. So with that being said, let's bring him back to the show. PJ, how are we doing today?
Good morning, Daniel. I'm a little bit bummed out, but I'll be all right. I just received word yesterday from the doctors that doing my surgery that I have an infection in the wound of the hip replacement, and that I can't go into surgery again for my right knee. So everything's been pushed back 3 weeks. And I was really pumped up and primed because I'm trying to get through these 3 major surgeries, and I don't need any delays. So I just got to pick myself up and go. I'll wait till the infection goes away, and then we'll try again for number 2.
Yeah, and PJ, obviously I know it's frustrating, and I know it's not something that you wanted to stop and have to deal with in that respect, but the great thing about this is you have so many supporters and you have so many people that really love you and respect you and appreciate you here on Wake Up Call, and are always reaching out to you. And I think that, in these times where, you're frustrated and you're upset, I want you to remember the fact that there are people that come to this show to listen to you, to hear from you. There are people that respect you and love you and pray for you and appreciate you, that without this show, they wouldn't know you. And without you doing this, they wouldn't know you. So in these tough times, I want you to know that, Papa Joe is more of a household name than it's ever been. And there's a lot of people out there that are always hoping and praying that you're going to be okay, and rooting for you. So when you have those moments, just understand you are never alone. And you got a lot of people that are always excited to hear from you.
Thank you, Daniel. That's very kind. And to all the listeners, I appreciate all the love and kindness that you talk about. And I'll lift myself up the mat and keep rolling here. So, anyways, today's Major League Baseball opening day. So we can rock and roll with baseball. And I got my Major League Baseball program again this year that Mary got me for my birthday or for Christmas. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. Now I get to see every game, anytime, anywhere, any place, on my screen. And I have a little graphic up there that shows me 8 different games at a time.
Yeah.
You got to be a real fan to look at 8 games at a time. I'm a good fan, but I'm not sure I'm going to watch 8 games. But anyway, it gives me a good idea to see how the teams are playing, and I can talk about them a little bit better if I can see more. Frankly, the way the schedules are set up with football also and basketball, we don't get to see too many of the West Coast teams because they're on a different schedule and they're later and everything. And I'm not going to wait till 9:30, 10 o'clock to watch a baseball game. So even though I have it on Major League Baseball, I'm still able to follow the teams a little bit better and get their stats a little bit more and talk a little bit more intelligently about it. So it'll be fun. I'm waiting for the first pitch as we speak.
Yeah, and it's very exciting. I mean, you look at the fact that it's kind of fitting, how God works, right? That opening day for Major League Baseball's 2022 season happens the day that we're talking, because you and I have gone through the stresses and the, questioning time and the tough time, and we've talked about, baseball's lockout and what they were doing, and the owners and the players and the money and the ridiculousness, and how the fans are the only ones that truly suffer through this whole thing more than anybody else, and the people that work the concession stands and game day operations and all of that, and the interns and whatnot. So it's, I feel like it's forever ago, which is a beautiful feeling to feel this, but I feel like it's forever ago that, you and I were talking about, is there going to be a season? How is there going to be a season? What are we going to do? And now here we are speaking on opening day. So, I'm incredibly grateful that we get to do that. And I think it's so fitting that it happened on the day that you and I always talk every week, which is Thursday. So what can you say about the fact that as much as there's been adversity, as much as it's been tough, as much as it's been frustrating, that here we stand on Thursday, April 7th, and you and I get to usher in the baseball season?
I'm a little disappointed that they had the work stoppage, but and I haven't really looked at the contract and everything, and frankly, I didn't want to be burdened with it. I do have some little trinkets that I'll talk about a little bit later on, but I just want, you got to win the game on the field, not on a negotiating table. I mean, there's so much money going around that it's ridiculous for us to speak about how either one of these sides can leave all this money to be negotiated on. There's so much, millions and billions of dollars that the people even read about it. It upsets me. But anyway, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, so happy to be here and happy to usher in the baseball season today, and very excited about that. I want to take a look at baseball season here as we have opening day today, April 7th, 2022. Just a week after it was supposed to be, with everything that was going on and how crazy it was and what we thought could have been. It's a beautiful thing to say that we are only a week from when it was supposed to start. To only miss a week was huge in the grand scheme of things, thinking that, this could have been a couple months, it could have been a couple weeks, whatever we were looking at here. So very excited as we have a slate of games today. Boston and New York, the Yankees and the Sox have been postponed due to weather. Seattle and Minnesota as well. But opening day will bring you Milwaukee at Chicago. The first game that we're going to see on opening day is going to be your Brewers connected to your family and Miss Mary T up in Wisconsin. So first game up, Milwaukee at the Chicago Cubs. We have the Cleveland Guardians changing their name and logo against Kansas City Royals. We have the Pitt Pirates up against the St. Louis Cardinals, the New York Mets at the Washington Nationals, Cincinnati Reds at the Atlanta Braves, Houston Astros at the LA Angels, and we have my Diamondbacks wrapping up the night on the West Coast as the San Diego Padres will be on site in Arizona to face off against my Arizona Diamondbacks. Sad part is, if you don't have the MLB ticket, there's only 2 games you're going to be able to see, and really for most people only one, and that is the game Cincinnati at Atlanta on ESPN2 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Outside of that, people with normal cable channel situations are not going to see any other games, which that is frustrating. And then Boston at the Yankees should be happening this Friday, April 8th at 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time, what it's been moved to, so they will usher in the second day. PJ, what can you say about it? You know, the fact that this is where we are right now, and in the first game up, the first game of the 2022 season will be the Milwaukee Brewers that are so near and dear to you and Mary.
Oh, glad to watch the Brewers play. I've been an advocate of theirs for many, many, many years. They've had good teams. Craig Counsell's a hell of a manager. And they have super players. Of course, they got Corbin Burns, who was the Cy Young Award winner last year. They're really loaded again this year. They're loaded with pitching. They have Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, who is another guy that throws hard. Freddie Peralta, Eric Lauer, and of course they have one of the most frightening pitchers in baseball is the left-handed reliever coming out of the bullpen, Josh Hader. And if you don't think he's scary, watch him on television when you're a left-handed hitter and see how many guys start bailing out. You'll see it. You'll see it. Be scared to death. They have an excellent team. I'm looking, of course, with Christian Yelich, who is a former MVP in the National League, who's fallen on hard times a little bit, but he's an incredibly talented player. I'm looking forward to him to move forward a little bit. And these guys don't take care of themselves over the winter. And all of a sudden they wind up having spring training issues, and they have this. And these guys, if they keep themselves in shape year round, they would be better off coming into spring training with a solid body. But no, they put themselves through too many calisthenics and weightlifting and stuff, and before you know it, they're out a game. Then they're out half a season. Then they're out a whole season. So, I don't know how these teams can afford to pay these guys multi-million-dollars to sit on a bench like that. And Christian Yelich makes a lot of money. I mean, he makes over $35 million a year playing baseball. Figure that out. Anyway, I'm looking forward to the game. I noted that Milwaukee, as usual, is going to be led by their strong pitching and the bat of Christian Yelich.
Yeah, and to get to see this game, I mean, are you going to be talking to your bros up in Milwaukee? I mean, are you excited about the fact that, you think about this, PJ. You and I get to usher in opening day of the 2022 MLB season, and we also get to usher in that the first game of opening day is Milwaukee. It was set up, It's almost like God's looking kindly upon PJ and trying to lift up your spirit. So, at 2 o'clock this afternoon, are you going to be calling over to them in Milwaukee, seeing how they're doing?
I'm going to be watching, of course. I mean, I got my racing on Thursday that I usually watch, but I'm going to be flipping channels all over the place. So I'll be happy. It's raining down here, too, so what am I going to do? I can't have a surgery. I can't prepare for that, so what the heck? I'll be just chilling.
Yeah, and having the opportunity to watch all these games and get a piece of what's going on. I know that you wanted to jump in, and I know you have things to say on each team, so with this being opening day and people being excited about baseball and very, very much looking forward to the 2022 season and wanting to leave behind us all of this drama that was happening going into the season, What can you say about? I mean, I know you want to talk about these teams. I know you got a lot to say, so I'm kind of just gonna open up the bullpen and let the bull out. So a little play on words, but let you go. So go ahead.
All right, hold on a minute. I'm trying to find something that I lost.
Okay, no worries.
Sometimes the old people can't find what they're looking for. Let me try this one.
And as we have that, as PJ is looking for some of the stuff here, I do want to let you all know, very excited, April 28th to April 30th is going to be the NFL draft, and Mike Sofka and I, and Mike also based in Florida, my second home of, in general, and my second home when it comes to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Very, very much looking forward to the fact that we have the opportunity to bring you our live draft cast, as Mike and I will be following the draft on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with you in real time to find out what that's going to look like and feel like. Make sure you stay close to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and of course our social media, Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT, as in the coming weeks we will be unveiling to you exactly what our draft cast is going to look like, and we will be the ones to bring you through the draft from rounds 1 through 7. We will have coverage in some way, shape, and form that will be unique to Wake Up Call and will make history for us for the first time ever doing our draft cast in this respect. So very much looking forward to it and excited to have it as the Jaguars have the number 1 pick. Back to PJ and baseball, my good sir.
Okay. Yeah, what I usually try to do is I usually try to come up with the teams that are supposed to be the best based on what their lineups are going to look like and how they did last year. And I jump right into the Dodgers, who are just so freakishly loaded with players. Trey Turner's coming back to the Dodgers. You got the best pitcher in baseball and Clayton Kershaw. You got a better pitcher in baseball in Walker Buehler. And these guys, Mookie Betts, and all these guys are going to start hitting the hell out of the ball. They're going to pitch well. I don't see the Dodgers backing up very much. I think that even though Kershaw is only signed to a 1-year contract, he's getting on in years, and his arm is wearing down, frankly. And they're sitting on that little lollipop curve that he throws, and he's getting killed. So I'm looking for the Dodgers to really step forward. Next, I'll talk about the White Sox. The White Sox definitely rely themselves on pitching with Lucas Giolito, Dylan Case, and Lance Lynn. These guys are all first-class pitchers, and you've got a Hall of Famer that's leading them, and that's Tony La Russa, who came out of retirement last year to help these guys. And he's older than I am, for crying out loud. And here he is, 162 games, messing around with young kids. Tim Anderson is one of the best players in baseball, plays shortstop for them. La Russa had a little bit of a problem that he started this season because, frankly, the lineup of these teams, as opposed to when he was managing 20, 25 years ago, they're made up of younger guys. They don't particularly like the old style of managing, if there is such a thing. And La Russa's he's an old timer, and he had to adapt. And he looked around and he says, "Listen, I got a bunch of talented players here. Why don't I just ease up a little bit and let them play ball, and then I'll make the moves that I have to do." And that seemed to be working out for him. He's, of course, a Hall of Fame player himself, along with a manager. So, and at home here, the Tampa Bay Rays are coming up with another good team. Every time you look at the Rays every year, they say, "Oh, they can't do this, they can't win that, they don't have enough money to play. Their whole roster is less than $100 million, while everyone else is up at $250 million. Yet they continue to do it. Every year they come out with a good, strong team, and this year is no different. They just have a really, really good bunch of regular players, not stars, just regular players with a good coach. The Yankees, what can you say about the Yankees? They have a murderous lineup. Absolutely. Aaron Judge, all these guys, murderous lineup. Rizzo is back now this year again.
Yeah.
But the Yankees, will try to outscore people, of course. But they're going to live and die by one of the best pitchers. I think the best pitcher in baseball right now, and that's Garrett Cole. I mean, he's going to go out there and he's going to give you 7 or 8 strong innings. He's going to strike out 10. His ERA is going to be under 2 or a little bit over 2. This pitching staff with Montgomery and Severino and Cortez and Dominic Germain, who pitched last year for a while. Severino is the one it just can't stay healthy. I don't understand. You heard me rant about these guys. They just don't stay healthy. So the Yankees are going to live and die by their murderous lineup of hitting 1 million home runs every year, and they're going to go by Garrett Cole. So, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
I got the Mets. More coming in really strong. Buck Showalter is on a long list of new Mets that include Max Scherzer, who you've heard me say before, is one of the best pitchers in baseball, in the top 3 at least. 3-time Cy Young Award winner. He was at the Dodgers for a while last year. I think he was 9-1 for the half of the year and an ERA of under 2. I mean, he's a killer, and he's 39 years old. So, his arm is going to be a little bit weakened, but I look for a nice manner that Buck Showalter has. He's another guy that managed 20 years ago with different kind of players. These players these days are young. They're me. All they think about is me. And it takes a strong manager to get these kids to understand that you can't win the game by yourself and you can't lose the game by yourself. And Buck Showalter, along with Tony La Russa, they're the kind of managers that can settle these kids down and say, listen, this is how you play baseball. I don't have to teach you how to play baseball, but you have to learn the game of baseball. And some of these kids just don't want to hear that. They think they can hit home runs all the time and throw shutouts all the time. That's not the way it works. Starling Marte is an absolute fabulous player. The Mets are going to be ready to go again this year. There's other teams that I could talk about, but I'm going to get down to one of Daniel's favorite players here, and that is the D-backs. And the D-backs, Daniel, I don't know if the D-backs are going to win 50 games this year, but they're let's see. The D-backs made so far the signing of reliever Mark Mellencamp to a 2-year, $14 million contract. That's a reliever, okay? But who's going to hit home runs and who's going to start pitching? There isn't any. They don't have enough players, Dan. They just don't have enough players. They acquired outfielder Jordan Luplow from the Rays in exchange for a minor leaguer. Yeah. I'm up on baseball players, and I don't know who Jordan Luplow is. That's a reliever, okay? But who's going to hit home runs and who's going to a worse team than the D-backs? So, go figure this out. I'm going to stop with the 5 teams until these guys start proving themselves on the field, and then we can get into the lineups a little bit more.
Yeah, and PJ, obviously I appreciate you jumping into that, and speaking on a bunch of different teams here around the league as we take a look at Major League Baseball's opening season. Or opening day, what are you most excited about personally as a fan? Like, what do you look forward to the most? You smell the popcorn, you see the field. I mean, I know you go out to Flagler College with Joey, and you guys have gone to some games and support the teams out there, and I know that obviously you've been a baseball fan for a very long time and a purist. What is it about opening day that really gets you?
Well, I want to see the game played clean. I don't want to see beanballs. I don't want to see you throw at any hitters. If they forget how to use the players that are beneficial terms, they don't do that, and I don't understand why. But I'm an old school guy. I want to see Tony La Russa and Buck Showalter manage the young kids. Sure, I want a strong pitching, which I love. You win a pennant, or frankly any sport. You win it on defense, pitching and defense with baseball especially. If you have pitchers that can give you 200 innings and with a good relief staff, not a great one, but a good one to hold the other team down, you should be able to have better than 500 baseball. And the way this league is set up now is that if you can play 500 baseball, you're going to be in the playoffs at the end of the year. Now, I go back to the NBA. Who the hell wants to see a 500 team play in the playoffs for the World Series, to go to the World Series? I don't want to see that. Of course, what they've done is they've inundated the fans with more games to watch, more hot dog to sell, and more parking tickets to sell, and it drives me crazy when they do that. But I want to see the front offices make the right move for the teams. I want to see the managers play the players that are the best, not the ones that are sulking on the bench. I want to see the outstanding players that do the best. I want to see them have some career years. So I follow it really keenly once it gets going. As to start out, they didn't have enough time in spring training to really show anything, especially with young kids. There's a young player that is going to be with the Kansas City Chiefs. Listen to me, Kansas City Royals. Bobby Witt Jr., his father used to be a pitcher in the National League, and he's the number one player that coming out of college or the minors, whatever you want to call it. I'm looking forward to him play. So, without being too critical, I want to be able to see what I just mentioned on the field. I don't want to see anything off the field. I don't want to see anyone beating up their wife or anything like that. Play the game on the field. Play it fair. Listen to your managers and play ball.
Yeah, and have a good, clean game, like you said. Just go out there and watch the game be played. See the skill, see what they're doing, and see who, is most prepared for the season and who utilized their time the best. I want to see the game. As I tell people all the time. I just want to see the game. I don't want to see the fights. I don't want to see the arguments. I don't want to see this and that. I want to just see a game be played. I want to sit and I want to watch two teams try and find a way to elevate to the top of the mountain that day in that game at that moment. That's what I want to see. So I'm looking forward to what's to come here in baseball. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break here. When we come back on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, PJ from the Sunshine State continues the conversation with us on the field of play. We're talking baseball and football. We're going to get some of his thoughts on the NFL and the fact that Stephon Diggs is the latest wide receiver to sign a hefty contract and has $70 million in guaranteed money, making him the second highest paid wide receiver in guaranteed money in the current NFL that we have today. And, of course, we will also hop into the fact that Terrell Owens, we started this conversation yesterday with Mike Sofka, Terrell Owens at 48 years old is going to come back and play football. We'll talk about all of that right after this fast break where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Thank you so much for tuning in with us and for always being a part of the show every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on mixlr.com, facebook.com, and youtube.com, all /WakeUpCallDT. And, of course, on wakeupcalldt.com and on facebook.com /LiveNowDT as well. From inside the Cafe Kubal studios, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora will spin back around with you right after this fast break. From Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York. Open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York. Open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout central and upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skaneateles, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skaneateles Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Hanging out with you inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, and always great to have you here where sports meets that thing called life. Of course, I am wearing my Toronto Raptors 2019 championship shirt today, and I'm doing that because in just a little while, we'll be joined by Katie Kolinski, the only person that was with me the day that I saw my Raptors win a national championship. I should say international championship, right? They're the only team from Canada. So the NBA championship going to the Raptors in 2019, 24 years into me being a fan, because I've been a fan since the beginning. So very excited about all of the beautiful opportunities that I have had to enjoy my Toronto Raptors over time, and always appreciate Miss Katie Kolinski. So wearing that in honor of her. Cafe Kubal, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street is now back open. 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse. Inside of Galisanos Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse, on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners, to make sure you check them out there as well in North Syracuse. And of course on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York. Thank you to all of the Cafe Kubal locations, and to you going out there and grabbing a cup of coffee, some chai, one of their sandwiches, as well as their fantastic breakfast, and so much more. Every little bit goes a long way, and Cafe Kubal is proud to serve you today. With that being stated, we're continuing our conversation with Papa Joe, who's got some more talk on.
And now being able to watch the West Coast play baseball at a reasonable time, I can get it on a tape or anything. I'm very excited about that because I do want to see these guys play. I want to see the Dodgers, who are absolutely loaded with sensational pitchers. That pitchers, let alone players. They start Mookie Betts in right field, who used to be with the White Sox or Red Sox, and he potentially is a 300 hitter, an MVP potential guy too. He plays exceptionally well. Next, they got Freddie Freeman, who they got from the Braves. They signed. How did the Braves let this guy go? I don't understand. I mean, he was their franchise for 10 years. Instead, they let him slip away to the Dodgers, so he's hitting behind Betts. You got Trey Turner, who used to be with the Washington Nationals, and he's a slick fielding shortstop and hits well. Max Muncy comes nets, hits home runs all over the place. Will Smith used to be with the Padres. He used to be with the Rays, and he patrols catching. Justin Turner is that big, ugly guy with a big red beard. Look terrible every year. I don't understand why he does that. But anyway, he's a hell of a player. Plays a good third base. Cody Bellinger plays center field for him. Is a dangerous hitter, extremely dangerous. Chris Taylor playing left field, and you got A.J. Pollock as a DH. So those guys facing that lineup will scare the hell out of anyone, including Josh Hader. So I look forward to that. And I mentioned earlier about the Yankees, and just listen to this lineup, and I can explain to you what if you're a pitcher facing these guys. You got Anthony Rizzo, used to be with the Cubs, signed with the Yankees, had a fair season last year. This year, I expect him to come back out and start swinging a little bit better. Second is Aaron Judge, who's a monster person, 6'7", 260 pounds. The bat looks like a toothpick in his hand. He plays a heck of a right field too. So don't think a big guy like that can't play. He can play. You got Joey Gallo, who used to be with the Harold Stanton, who is a killer himself. He's a DH. He's liable to hit 40 home runs. Josh Donaldson has been on the end of his career, but he's still a very potent bat and plays a really slick third base. Lieber Torres, second baseman, all-star every year. Got Aaron Hicks, center field, really, really super player. They got a young man by the name of Isaiah Kiner Falafa playing shortstop. Don't know anything about him. He's probably come up from the minor league, so I'm looking for him to make a good deal. I mentioned a little bit about the Red Sox. Their lineup consists of Kiki Hernandez, who was a super player last year, did everything well, ran well, bunted well, hit for homers, hit for doubles, triples. He did it all last year. Now I got Trevor Story, who came from, let me see, where did Trevor Story come from? Anyway, they signed him to a huge contract. Rafael Devers bats third. He's a potential MVP every year, too, along with Xander Bogaerts, who behind him. These guys have played at a high level all the time. And a perfect example of a player that plays good all the time is J.D. Martinez. He came from he came from San Diego and just mashes the hell out of the ball. Alex Verdugo's a really good player. Bobby Dahlbeck, who's played sparingly last year, but still hit 30 home runs. Jackie Bradley's coming back to Boston after having a miserable year at Milwaukee, and he's just can't hit very well. I don't understand that Jackie Bradley can play center field with anyone and get down anything, jump the fences to catch the ball. So he had a really difficult time at Milwaukee last year. So what does he do? He goes back to the Red Sox, which is fine. I got the Phillies up here next, mainly because they...
Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com.
He used to be with the Cubs for many years. He was with Washington for a while. He's batting first. You got JT Realmuto, who's been with him for a couple of years. Then you got Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Reese Hopkins, Didi Gregorius used to play shortstop for the Yankees. All of these guys are top-flight players. So, and they all hit well. So I'm looking forward to see those guys. I don't think I have anything other. There are some other teams, but we wanted to get into football a little bit before I have to meet my PT person.
Yeah, and obviously appreciate all the and the MLB conversation as we get set for opening day here with Papa Joe hanging out with us inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. PJ, taking a look at the NFL, Terrell Owens at 48 years old is going to be joining something called fan-controlled football, the FCF. It's going to start here in April, and it's going to be a league where fans get to have real-time decision-making ability inside of the games, including play calling. What are your thoughts on fans being heavily involved in how a game is run? And secondly, what are your thoughts on Terrell Owens wanting to play again?
Daniel, I don't know about that. I don't. I want to watch old-fashioned football. I don't like change. You know that. I'm too old. I don't like change. I want to see 11 guys line up a field, bash the hell out of each other, and see who wins. That's who controls the line of scrimmage. I don't know if I'm going to like that at all. I'll be open-minded on it, of course, but but don't expect me to be really, really up for it. As for Terrell Owens, what can you say? I mean, he's certainly way past his prime. I mean, he probably keeps himself in phenomenal shape. But Terrell, you shouldn't be on the field, Terrell. Go in if you want to do something, go in the broadcast booth or something. But stay off the field. Don't go for that. And with all these teams spending so much money on guaranteed monies and signing all these players, sometimes you have to look at the team and say, how can these teams afford to pay these kind of players this kind of money? And from what I revealed from the salary cap is that I think, listen to this, the total reserve share for one team is $433 million. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about that, we talk about the Jaguars all the time, of course. The Jaguars just spent $175 million in guaranteed money. That's a lot of money for any team to spend, let alone the Jaguars, who haven't done anything in the last 10 years. So Khan is going all in with these guys. Some of the guaranteed monies for some of our players is the Christian Kirk, $37 million, Brandon Sheriff, $30 million, and on and on and on and on. It goes down to Evan Ingram at $8.5 million. I'm a little concerned about where the teams are going forward from. You'd like to think that all the teams are healthy and that make money, but when you spend this kind of money, then you have in reserve $433 million. Boggles the mind, Daniel.
Yeah, and I think it is. It's hard to see. I mean, obviously Jacksonville's spending a lot of money, and it's yet to be seen if this money is going to be money well spent. And they are putting a lot out there. They are spending a lot to try and change this team for the better. And it's going to be interesting to see exactly how, spending so much money on a Christian Kirk. I mean, giving Christian Kirk the amount of money they did is making him comparable to Stephon Diggs. It's making him comparable to Devontae Adams, and that's not where he is right now. And so, you're rolling a giant dice to see, what this is going to look like and ultimately what it's going to shake out to be. And I'm not against, listen, you go and get your money, and I can appreciate that and I can respect that. I just want the Jaguars to be smart in the moves that they make. They have had a lot of money to spend. When you're not a great team, you get a lot of money and you get a lot of draft picks because you got a lot of openings. And, so I mean, they have the capital. They have the money. They have the draft capital. They have the ability to make themselves better. The question is, what moves are you making and what are you doing to make sure that you can get this done and get this done right? And, do I think they're necessarily making every right move? Again, it's yet to be seen. That it would behoove them to go to the offensive line and to shore that up and really figure that out, and see how they can grow from there. Build in the trenches, build your offensive line, build your defensive line, and go from there. That's how you win championships. You brought in some veteran wide receivers in the sense of the fact that they've been around for a minute or two. Not necessarily the most prolific, but guys that that have been around the game. So you brought them in, a little change of face here, getting rid of some of the guys that you drafted. And you have Laviska Shenault coming back. You have Marvin Jones Jr. coming back, who I think could be a good leader on this team. And I spoke with him about his leadership, and he feels like the leadership does come from him in the locker room. So, I'm excited to see where they're going to go from there. There are some weapons, and hopefully a healthy Travis Etienne Jr., as well as having, James Robinson back, and you have, Trevor Lawrence and whatnot. You should have some talent here that's going to carry you through in a positive way, but it's about putting it all together. It's about being consistent, and it's about protecting your quarterback. And there's a lot of things that need to be done on this Jaguars team. They've addressed some of these issues. They've tried to get better. And the question is now, did they spend the money in the right place? And we will find that out. But I think, as the draft is coming forward here, it's imperative that the Jaguars do not botch this, because one thing is certain. The Jacksonville Jaguars, in the last decade plus that they've drafted, have reneged in a way, because they'll keep a player for a little bit and then let them go. Right, C.J. Henderson didn't work out. DJ Chark didn't work out. D.D. Westbrook didn't work out. Jalen Ramsey didn't work out. Leonard Fournette didn't work out. Talvin Smith didn't work out. Yannick Ngakoue didn't work out. There's a lot of names on that list of like, hey, we brought him in and it didn't work out. And I think the one that's like the giant sore thumb more than anybody is C.J. Henderson. He came in, got hurt, came back, they let him go. And he was, on the team for about 5 seconds, it felt like. So, I think ultimately, they have to make sure they strike well in the draft. And that has to come down to Trent Baalke and Shad Khan making good decisions with Doug Peterson. And they really need to be smarter than they were in the past, because they cannot afford another draft where they pick up a guy who's talented, but then maybe, track record isn't good, maybe off the field isn't good, maybe team building and chemistry isn't good, maybe, they have a nagging injury that they didn't look enough into. The Jaguars, if it's one or two guys, okay. But when there's consistent problems in the players that they draft, that's a them issue that they're not doing their research. And so I would suggest this time that they get their research right, because they can't afford to miss again.
That's true. They haven't done the due diligence with a lot of players that you just mentioned. A couple of those players are really fine ball players. A couple of them were just pain in the asses. So get rid of them. I do think that Pedersen is a different way about him. Certainly a hell of a lot different than Urban, Meyer the Liar. So I'm looking forward. I read a lot about the camp. Camp's going strong. Players are doing well. We could be surprised this year, Daniel. And I know that we talk about the Jaguars almost every week on the show, or maybe even too much on the show. But they're our team, and we want to see them do well. And I really think that if Pedersen is who he says he is, and Trevor Lawrence plays the way he's supposed to play, and the offensive line plays the way they're supposed to play, and so on and so on and so on, then the team has a chance to at a 500 record. I mean, we say this every year, but all of a sudden they get off to a 1-3 start or a 2-5 start or 0-6 start, and then we're kicking ourselves in our butts and we're yelling and screaming because nothing's going right. So I think Khan has probably learned his lesson over the years. He certainly made some major blunders being an owner. He's still worth tons of money, but he had to learn this game himself. And he brought some people in like Tom Coughlin, I thought that was going to teach him. Well, they didn't teach him nothing because Khan is still lost. And maybe he bringing in an easy guy like Pedersen is the way to go. Baalke is a first-class GM. I mean, these guys are proven. Let's hope that they prove it on the field.
Yeah, and so we'll see what happens as it all shakes out. And, we head closer and closer to the NFL draft, and we'll be getting into that even deeper with PJ in the coming weeks here as we get set for the draft, which will officially begin on Thursday, April 28th, and run through Saturday, April 30th. As always, Papa Joe, I appreciate it, and I'm so thankful that in the weeks that we talked about everything that was going on with Major League Baseball, that we could finally say that the season has begun. So let me officially send to you, Mr. Papa Joe, welcome to the 2022 Major League Baseball season. Your Brewers are first, and I officially welcome you into yet another season of baseball. I'm very happy to be able to do that, and I'm always happy to do that with you.
Well, thank you, Dan. I'm sorry for my sound problems this morning, but we'll get it straightened up for next week.
It's all good, and don't worry about it at all. Enjoy your PT, and you got prayers coming your way. Greg sent over that he's praying for you, and he wants to hear about the Kentucky Derby coming up here as well.
All right. Now you're talking.
All right.
See you later.
Take care. We'll talk soon. Hey, coming from Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. So I always appreciate having PJ on the broadcast with us inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. And, you know, the internet's been somewhat of an interesting thing over time. So hopefully for those of you, I know we had to switch to a new video. I hope that you all were able to switch over with us. On YouTube, we've ran through, but Facebook is what it is, and Facebook sometimes is a problem. So very happy to be able to shift gears with you here into a new video, and hopefully you've been able to shift with us. And we thank you for listening on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt and on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. So however you're connecting with the show, thank you so much to be a part of it. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break, and when we spin back around, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we'll continue the conversation on what is coming up. We'll have a little bit of NBA talk before we shift into our women's basketball conversation with Katie Kolinski as well as Gabby Holko. Gabby coming up first in just a few minutes around 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, NBA talk, and then we hop to women's basketball and speak on where the state of women's basketball truly is. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Hanging out inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. What's up, everybody? I hope you're having yourselves a fantastic day. Pop's Pub on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. Watch the Toronto Raptor thing, as a mom and as a coach and whatnot. And more than anything else, just very excited to have her as a friend. So always looking forward to the conversations and always looking forward to my friend Gabby Holko coming up as well. So a lot of great stuff in the basketball world, and I can't wait to dive into the conversation we're going to have today with Gabby Holko as well as Katie Kolinski, as we will be speaking on the state of women's basketball, the growth of the women's basketball tournament, and being proud as a woman to see women get the spotlight. Awesome conversations coming up about women's basketball and how basketball is basketball and how it needs to be treated as such. So we will be having those conversations coming up here very, very soon, and I so very much look forward to being able to do that with Gabby Holko of Susquehanna University, the Riverhawks women's basketball head coach and then assistant coach of the Boston Celtics, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Toronto Raptors, and the Chicago Bulls. And then the games that we're going to see with teams that clinched a play-in berth is we know that the play-in berth clinched have been with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Brooklyn Nets, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Charlotte Hornets. Formerly from 8 seed when they were in the playoffs, have risen all the way to a number 2 seed right now in the Western Conference. The Golden State Warriors have found life after having a terrible season last season with injuries and whatnot. They are 3rd. The Dallas Mavericks are 4th. The Utah Jazz are 5th. And the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves are still fighting for who's going to have the 6th spot. The play-in games are going to have the Los Angeles Clippers, who have dropped down, and they're 40-40 at the time that we're talking. The New Orleans Pelicans and the San Antonio Spurs. The Lakers have been eliminated from the playoffs. LeBron James could not buy a championship this year. The Sacramento Kings, the Portland Trailblazers, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Houston Rockets are done. Now, I want to be clear. LeBron James is talented. LeBron James is good. LeBron James is one heck of a freakish athlete, and I respect him as an athlete. I respect him as a player. I respect him as someone who is just I'm going to make a giant crater in the ground, and then I'm going to fill that crater with a guy or two that I don't like playing against. We're going to bring all these superstars here. We're going to try and win a championship. Then I'm going to leave and go somewhere else, and we're all going to leave, and it's going to decapitate this team again. And then we're going to go to another place. We're going to do this. I don't like that. Michael Jordan never did that, okay? Sean Kemp didn't do that. Gary Payton didn't do that. Karl Malone, John Stockton didn't do that. They didn't say, Karl Malone didn't say, hey, I don't like playing against David Robinson, bring him to Utah. He didn't say, hey, I don't like playing against Dennis Rodman, bring him to Utah. Gary Payton said, hey, I don't like, I'd rather be in the backcourt with John Stockton than up against him, so bring him to Seattle. That didn't happen. That is one of my glaring issues with LeBron. Is that, and he just seems conceited. You know what I mean? I remember watching a game where he hit a last-second shot against the Raptors in the playoffs. I was down in Florida, and I remember watching the post-game press conference, and all he did was talk about himself. He gave no credit to anybody. It was, I'm LeBron James. I practice this shot all the time. I know how to make this shot because I'm LeBron. I wasn't worried with a second left on the clock because I'm LeBron, and I'm LeBron, and I'm LeBron, and I'm LeBron, and I'm LeBron. And I was like, dude, there's other people that are on the floor with you. Like, yeah, you're one of the greatest players in NBA history, but let's give a little bit of respect to the other people that were there with you. You didn't score every single point in the game, and you didn't set every pick, and you didn't you didn't get every steal, and you didn't do every defensive move. So, that's just, it's frustrating for me to watch a guy like LeBron because I am not for the way he puts a team together. I'm just not. I don't feel it. It's not something that I think is the correct way to build things. I just don't. And look at it. It didn't work in Brooklyn, right? James Harden's gone. It didn't work in LA for, the last couple seasons. And, you think about it. If it's not working in LA, it's not working in Brooklyn. It's just, it hasn't worked, right? Toronto didn't do that. Toronto brought in Kawhi, but they had to give up DeMar DeRozan. And I don't think people would say that that's like the number 1 and 2 tandem in the NBA at the time. So, I see teams that are just figuring it out, right? Finding a way to win, right? Memphis drafting well with Ja Morant and whatnot. I love seeing a team build, gel, grow, and actually invest in each other, as opposed to, I'm going to go buy Anthony Davis, and if Anthony Davis isn't going to work out, I'm going to ship him out and buy somebody else. How can you ever be a great teammate if that's how you work? So, and again, Dwayne Wade won a championship without LeBron James and with an older Shaquille O'Neal, so props to that. So, I'm excited for what's to come. I'm excited for the NBA playoffs. I'm excited for my Raptors. And at the same time, I look forward to seeing a team win. I know you got to have strong players. I'm not saying you don't have to have players that are more than capable. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that the world of, let's go buy a championship, I don't like that world. And I'm excited to see what a team can do outside of that world. With that being said, we'll take a step aside for a fast break. When we spin back around, we will be joined by my good friend and Susquehanna Riverhawks women's basketball head coach, Miss Gabby Holko, who will join us today to speak on her season, looking forward, as well as what is the state of women's basketball, where can it go, where has it gone, and what does she think about the tournament and how that was handled this year, and the growth of the tournament, as well as the pride of being a woman, seeing women finally get the spotlight. We'll talk about all that with Gabby Holko right after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family friendly. Some family friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, two places where you are listening worldwide on our streaming radio. And of course, you're watching and listening on two places on Facebook, facebook.com/livenowdt, as well as facebook.com/wakeupcalldt. And of course, you're here with us on YouTube as well, on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. So always proud to be hanging out with you inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Fill your cup up right today. And if you're like Gabby Holko and I, you need to fill up that cup multiple times a day and make sure you have that energy, because we are running around. And I am so grateful and so happy to have her back. A good friend of mine, became friends, fast friends, really when she was over at Marywood University. And just getting to talk to her a couple minutes off the air made me realize that I need to give her more calls more often here, just to kind of catch up and see how she's doing. A positive light, a great person, a supportive friend, a genuine person, which is why I'm not surprised at all that she can recruit and that she can obviously put a team together. So it is my honest and true pleasure, as always, to welcome the good friend that I have in my life and a fantastic coach at Susquehanna for the Riverhawks women's basketball team. That is Miss Gabby Holko, as we discuss where we are in women's basketball in this hour of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Cafe Kubal studios, to truly look at where women's basketball has been, where it is, and where it can go, with two very amazing people in Gabby Holko and Katie Kolinski. So, Miss Holko, I am so very honored, and I realize, like I said, talking with you a couple minutes off the air, I'm like, dang it, I miss these conversations. So how are you and how's everything?
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for having me on. Everything's going well. Right now, just kind of getting back in the off-season swing of things. Obviously, at the Division III level, we're not allowed to work out with our kids anymore, which is a big bummer. Hopefully, the NCAA changes that rule a little bit, just so we have some contact with our student-athletes on the floor. But really just doing a lot of culture stuff, a lot of culture building, making sure that we're staying kind of intact with that, and then really getting out on the road recruiting. I mean, AAU it's starting up earlier than ever. There was a tournament this past weekend. There's one this weekend. I mean, from now until July, there's probably a tournament that you can go to every single weekend and just getting kids onto campus. We're done with our 2022 class, so we have 6 incoming kids for next year, kids that I'm super excited about. So now we're kind of in that 2023 range, getting these juniors up onto campus, showing them how beautiful Susquehanna and Selinsgrove is, little town in PA. So just kind of shining that light and making sure that we do everything that we can to get some quality athletes here at Susquehanna.
Yeah, you know, and I think, and like you said, I mean, AAU, and with everything going on and how crazy it is, and, you know, there really is no stop to this. But in the last 2 years when we've had to stop, even though you're busy, even though you're running around, do you have a newfound appreciation for it after everything we've been through?
Oh, absolutely. I would never go back to how we had to be locked down. I mean, SU was very conservative in the fact of how we dealt with COVID-19, and we as coaches weren't allowed on the road. I mean, we were not allowed on the road till late in that 2-year period. So I will never, ever, ever. I mean, that first time being back in a gym, and I believe it was up at Spooky Nook, where there's 30-something, 40-something courts, and you're just hearing the squeaking of the shoes, bouncing of basketballs, whistles everywhere. That's something that I won't take for granted. And just being able to be with our kids and see our kids, and here at SU now, we don't have to wear masks indoors. So being able to see their smiling faces and then be able to see my smiling face, I think that was a connection that we lost within these 2 years. And I'm happy to see that we're kind of getting back to normal, and it's something that I think all of us will take for granted. I think that was the connection that we lost within these 2 years, and I'm happy to see that was canceled. We're kind of getting back to normal as a university. The landmark conference played, but SU thought that it wasn't safe for us to be able to play, which was a very big heartbreaker. I mean, I had 6 seniors that I was graduating in that class, and there was something about them that they just were not obviously happy about how their senior year was going to end. We had one that came back for a 5th year, but it's a different place here at SU. We only have one master's program, and it's in education. So obviously, if you're looking for an education master's degree, that's great. But for a lot of our kids, we're a huge business school, business, marketing, communications. So for us, it's hard to get these kids to stay for a 5th year because they can go get a graduate degree within their kind of scope of education. So it's definitely something that I don't think any of us coaches will take for granted. I know every school was different with how they approached it, but at the same time, it was something that I hope we never have to go through again in my coaching career.
Yeah, no, and I would second that times a billion. I still remember sitting on my couch having conversations, checking in on all the, businesses that I work with and different things going on. And I remember sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I don't ever want to do this again. Like, I don't ever want to be in this situation and see good people suffer ever again. So we're back, we're here, we're having fun, we're excited. I love that, Susquehanna University, like you say, SU, and then my listeners are like, SU? What? And so, I think it's so cool to have that. So what's it like to have another SU? I don't want to take away from your SU. I grew up with my SU, but how would you describe Susquehanna's SU?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful place. I mean, honestly, Dan, it's somewhere that this is a primetime spot. It's a primetime job. It's a primetime university. It's a primetime landmark conference. I mean, we have all the things that we need to be successful here. And we have administration that supports us. We have coaches that support us. If you walked into our athletic department today, you would see everybody kind of walking in the halls, talking to each other, bouncing ideas off each other, or just having conversations. And I think that that's something that really stood out to me on my interview here 3 years ago, was just the people. I mean, you look at a Frank Marcinic, our men's basketball coach, who's been here for 32 years. Jim Finley, our men's soccer coach, has been here for 20-something years. Nick Hoover, our women's soccer coach, he played men's soccer at SU and then came back to be an assistant for both the men and the women's soccer programs, and now he's the head of the women's soccer program. I mean, the people in this department just really care, and they really put into each other. We support each other. We're at each other's games. I think the people is really what makes the place, and that's in our athletic department. That's over in admissions. That's over in our student life department. I think that we do a really great job at SU of just making people feel welcomed. It's a really welcoming place, and our campus is absolutely gorgeous. Our grounds crew does a wonderful job at making sure that the campus is beautiful in the winter, in the spring, in the fall. It's just a place that we always say, like when we're talking to recruits, is once we get you to step foot on campus, it kind of sells itself. I mean, obviously we have to sell you on our women's basketball program, but the campus itself is going to sell you because of how beautiful it is. And you're going to get a primetime education while you're here. I mean, we have really great degrees. We have a lot of our kids. I mean, it's, I think, in the top 90% that get jobs right after they graduate. And that's because we have a great alumni basis here that want to give back. And especially with our women's basketball alums, I mean, I'm really trying to bridge that gap between our alums and kind of get them going and get them to know our girls again. And it's been something like we just had our 30 and 30, which is it's like a month of giving. And then we also have a day of giving within the month. It's a little weird if you ask me, but we had 30 and 30 and we had 30 alums that gave back to our program, which is the most that we've had in my 3 years here. So it was something spectacular, and I really appreciate all the people that did donate for that. But it's a special place here, Dan. I love it. It's a place that I can call home, and it's just something that I'm excited to see what we can do.
Yeah, and the thing that I'm realizing is, and I'm catching it, is that your accent and my girlfriend's accent are the same because y'all are Pennsylvania people. And and I'm hearing it, and I'm gonna, I know this is like an aside, but she is a massive Pittsburgh everything fan.
Hey, that means she's a good human then.
So I have to ask you this. Are you ready for Big Ben? Were you ready for the goodbye?
Yeah, I think it's his time. I think he gave us great years here. Won a lot of games, was a great teammate. I think that when you think of the Steelers, you think of Big Ben. But at the same time, I really do think it's his time to kind of go, and I don't think he's going to pull a Tom Brady and come back and say, oh, I'm retired and I'm coming back. So I'm excited to see what kind of is going to be who is going to be our next QB. I know we got Mitch Trubinsky, but also, you have Mason, who I'm not a fan of. I'm hoping we can draft a good quarterback. I am a very big fan of Kenny Pickett from Pitt, but I don't think that we're going to be on the board for him. So you never know. I'm excited to see what's happening within Steeler football. We lost Juju Smith-Schuster, so that's a big hit. So we'll see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think the Kenny Pickett thing would be a good choice. I've interviewed him and obviously covered him and his time at Pittsburgh because he inside of the ACC. I've gotten to spend a lot of moments around that and get to watch that and see him play spoiler to things. So excited about that. But we are here today to speak about where we are in women's basketball. And I know that you and I have had discussions before. And, this is a world where, and it's crazy to me to say this, but when you were and obviously you're younger than me, but when you and I were growing up as kids, there was the reality that the women's Division I basketball tournament was not televised until the end. There was no round of 64. There was no this, that, whatever. And Selection Monday instead of Selection Sunday. There's all these things that went on. When you look back on women's basketball and how much it wasn't there for you as a kid, as far as, ESPN and Fox and CBS and NBC and ABC and whoever picking it up, when you look back to that time, to me it feels like a nightmare. What is it like for you to look back on that and say, like, if I wanted to find out how a team's doing, if I wanted to watch a game, I couldn't. I had to look in the newspaper, if they even carried it in the newspaper, because I remember looking for the women's bracket in the newspaper one time. I couldn't find it forever. So going back to your childhood and knowing how underrepresented, underappreciated, and literally almost no spotlight besides maybe UConn and Tennessee, just what you could say about those dark days of when women's basketball really was not even given a chance.
I would absolutely agree with you on all of that. I think a big thing for me growing up, I grew up inner city Pittsburgh, so basketball was like the main sport within the area that I grew up in, and I always played with the guys and played with the boys in the street. That was just kind of the thing. There weren't many girls that played basketball, but I honestly think that that's because of how underrepresented it was. I had a phenomenal coach that kind of sparked my interest for basketball. I my mom put me in a Catholic school in third grade, took me out of the public school because just academically, she didn't think that I was getting the education that I could have gotten. So she transitioned me to Cardinal Wright. It was Cardinal Wright grade school, and I was there. It was a 3rd through 8th, and I came home one day, and if you would know me or talk to my family, they'd tell you that I'm the clumsiest person they'd ever meet. And as a kid, I was extremely clumsy, and I came home one day and I said to my mom in 3rd grade, I think I want to play basketball. And she's like, oh my goodness, there's no way that this girl's going to be able to walk. She can't even walk and talk at the same time. So I had in my little circle, Kelly Flatley was her name, and she was my coach from 3rd grade through 8th grade. And she's somebody that's still really heavily involved in my life, and a reason on why I wanted to be a coach, because she was such a strong woman figure in my life that loved basketball, knew basketball, taught it, coached it, and is somebody that really kind of sparked that interest for me. And I know a lot of females aren't lucky enough to have a Kelly Flatley in their life to be able to make that happen. And for me, that was like the huge point. But never being able to see them on TV, I mean, is devastating to girls like me and younger, and I mean a little bit younger and a little bit, I mean, obviously older than me that weren't able to see them on TV. I mean, I was a huge Tennessee fan growing up, but that's because that Tennessee and UConn. I mean, you think about the rivalry between those two. I mean, that's what was talked about when you talked about women's basketball. And that was something, or you would hear of, obviously, the Olympics when they were around, and you would hear of the great women that came before us and played on the Olympic team. But really, you weren't getting the looks for women's basketball. And obviously, being somebody who does this for a profession and loves this sport so much, and it has given me so much in my life, I think that it was a disservice to women's basketball. And it's so exciting to see, even with this year. I mean, last year with everything that happened within the bubbles, with how the men were getting this and the women weren't getting that. And I think that social media, it's a blessing and a curse, and it was a blessing for sure. I mean, you were able to have these young women, these women that are on these teams, have such a platform to be able to show the inaccuracies or how their tournament was being treated towards the men. And it was something that was like eye-opening for a lot of people, but us in women's basketball knew that this has been happening for years. So it's not such a shock to us, but at the same time, it was good to kind of point that out and kind of get that equality. And one big thing that I've noticed this year especially is how accessible the games were this year for the women's tournament. I mean, still, you have to have cable for an ESPN, or you have to have an ESPN password. You have to have the streaming service, where for the men's games, you can log right into you Google March Madness, men's pop up, you click on it, and it takes you to a free stream of the game. So I still think that we have a long way to go for the women's game, for promoting and giving the airtime, but I think that we've definitely come a long, long way. And it's exciting for little girls that are growing up and starting to love basketball to be able to see Dawn Staley win her second national championship, and see all these strong women coaching and playing. I think that it's something really special for the young girls that are growing up that are loving basketball.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome thing to be able to see this and to have this be front and center for us finally. And, like you said, I mean, you grew up around it, you grew up in a place where basketball was obviously, the thing, and it was important. But, not everybody has that, and not everybody gets to see that. And, there's always I want to see somebody like me, right? I want to see somebody that could go out there and do that and whatnot. And, it's so weird because I've spent time thinking about this, and in the moment I'm, thinking about it, and I'm like, wow, in tennis, it's like Venus and Serena, and then like, maybe like Martina and whatnot. So it's like you see a few and that was it. And then, in golf, like maybe there's a face or two. And, in softball, nothing was talked about. In lacrosse, nothing was talked about. In, women's basketball, it was Gino Auriemma and Pat Summitt, and that was it, like we were talking about. So, it's sad that as a broadcaster, when I look back on history and I think of like, who were the notable women or women's programs or things that were really spotlit in our world? And I could probably count on both of my hands and not need more than 10 fingers the names that like maybe were household names, because it really was probably less than 10 across all sports, as opposed to, I'm like, name 10 guys in the NFL. People can name 150. But when it came to women's athletics, it was minimal coverage. And it was kind of like with the Williams sisters, they made you have to cover them, and Pat Summitt, I feel like it took forever for her to get respect and get a spotlight. And I feel like, as good as she was, like how many people didn't know that? So, and then Dawn Staley, it's like, you catch yourself going, where did she go to college? Because it wasn't talked about. I mean, it's so crazy to be in this world where when I think about our childhood, I can honestly say, and this is like a sad thing to say, but again, I'll say it again to bring it home. I can probably say the women in sports when I was a kid growing up that were like on SportsCenter or were spotlit or whatever, the amount of women across every sport in America that were talked about, I can probably count on less than both of my hands.
Yeah, and that's something that's just, it's sad for the young girls that grew up during that time. I mean, you weren't able to see somebody, and as you said, you want to see people that you could see yourself being, and I think that's why, I mean, my generation, your generation, I mean, we got into sport because we had those figures in our lives, like personally, not because it was on TV, especially as a female, seeing, oh, I want to be like her, or, oh, I want to be like that. I mean, I was a huge Pat Summitt fan, and Tennessee was obviously that school that I think every young basketball player, Tennessee or UConn, where do you want to go? Where do you want to see yourself playing? And obviously those were pipe dreams, but at the same time, those were the two schools that were kind of at the forefront, and you really didn't hear about the other teams that were playing during that time. And then now within the last like 3-5 years, it's getting talked about more. I mean, you can log into an ESPN and see a WNBA game, and I think the WNBA still needs to come a long way. Like, yes, we came a long way with our NCAA women's tournament and calling it finally the Final Four instead of in March Madness, and being able to use the same terms that the men's side was able to use. But I think that you log on, you turn your TV on or go to ESPN Plus, and there's NBA games on 24/7, but there's only a select few of WNBA games, or you have to get a special streaming service for it. So I think that we're taking steps in the right direction, but there still has to be a little bit more push, and I think that that's going to definitely happen with these younger generations. They like to push, and they like to kind of expose things on social media to be able to put that out there and just say, like, hey, we as women deserve better. And I think that that's something that's special, and it's awesome. It gives us a voice, and it gives them a voice. So it's something as a coach of a women's basketball program to be excited about what the future is kind of holding for our teams and our athletes, and just to see what kind of happens.
So for you, to see, here's some changes that have been made. We now know that there's 68 teams on the men's Division I tournament and the women's Division I tournament. Both have 68, both have a first four, both have those play-in games. So now the template is the same. We also know the fact that, the games can now be viewed on television from the beginning rounds and through to the championship, and not just the championship game. And we know that there's been more of an investment in that. So, from that point of view of knowing that the number of teams is the same, the format is the same as the men's side of it, and to know that we can actually watch these games throughout, and on top of that, that there's no Selection Sunday, Selection Monday, that the women have been moved to the men's brackets released on Selection Sunday, and right after the men's brackets released on Sunday as well, the women's bracket is released. To create a world where they're saying Selection Sundays for all of us, 68 teams is for all of us, being televised is for all of us. It's amazing how they're like, well, there's no viewership and there's no listeners and nobody cares and this, that, whatever. And I'm like, well, you're not giving them an opportunity and you're not promoting them as such. Now that they're promoting the women's game as equal, now that they're promoting the template as equal, now that they're promoting Selection Sunday for everybody, now that they're promoting that all the games can be televised from round to round, it's amazing how more people are watching, huh?
Oh my goodness, the viewership has been unreal. I mean, the women's championship game in Minnesota and Minneapolis was just definitely like, I mean, I think they had, it was a sellout crowd of, I think, 19,000. And that's something women's basketball has been by true women's basketball fans, players, coaches. I mean, it's obviously been viewed, but because they don't make it accessible, it's hard to count that. And that's the biggest thing that I laugh at. You call it the Twitter trolls, is anytime something is happening about women's basketball, softball, golf, tennis, whatever it is, that if it deals with a woman, you look in the comments and you see a lot of angry men. And you see a lot of men, she would never last a day in the NBA. Well, obviously, there are some women that can hold their own in the NBA against men. But yes, are men's bodies different than women's? Absolutely. But it's just a bunch of angry people that just always, and I shouldn't just say it's just men. I mean, there are angry women as well. They say, oh, nobody watches women's basketball. Why is this on? But obviously, when you look at the viewership, there's a lot of people watching, and that's something that's special for our sport. Yeah,
and like you had said, a lot of angry people. I posted something about a coach getting a job, a female getting a woman getting a women's basketball job, and I put a post out about it and just thought, like, hey, how could anybody be mad at this? Like, it was something I predicted with Felicia Leggett-Jack, that she would get the job at Syracuse, and I predicted
Which is
it.
an awesome thing.
You know, and kind of like a year in advance in my head, I was like, this is going to happen. So I posted something, you know, like, I don't know, almost a month before she got the job. And I was like, you know, now I think it's perfect timing. The Ducks are in a row. I think it's going to happen. And there was a man that responded to me saying, why do you, talking to me, why do you and the rest of the media try and push us? You know, why do you try and push women's sports on us? We all know that they're not. We know that they're not as important as the men. They've never been. And I don't like this media, like, I don't know, propaganda of trying to force us to care about women's athletics. And I sat here and I went, this is a message from a human being, number one.
Right.
Number two, this is a message from a human being in 2022.
Yep.
Where, in what nook and cranny did he crawl out of for 5 minutes to come out of his mother's basement to write me this? Like,
yeah, and that's the thing is they're like I said, they're just angry people, and it's not even worth, like, I know, like, there's sometimes where it's funny to hear what their rebuttal is or their argument when you give them clear, hard facts. But at the same time, it's like not even worth it because they don't know what they're speaking about. As you said, came out of some basement to just say something negative about a wonderful coach getting a wonderful job. I mean, and that's something where we should be. And I know in women's basketball, most of us empower each other. I mean, we want to see each other succeed. And if you don't, I think that there's something wrong with that. I mean, I want to see other coaches around me succeed. I want to be able to be somebody that calls you up and just say, hey, like, that's a great win. Like, good job. And I think that we as coaches have our circles, and I have my circle that I talk to on a weekly basis, and we check in with each other. We're all coaching at different schools. And I think that that's just the best thing, is to just have other coaches that can empower you and make you better and to push you into these things. And I think that those people that are negative and that are angry for whatever reason it may be, maybe he got beat by a girl playing basketball when he was growing up, and that just stuck with him for the rest of his life. But at the same time, I think that we just have to spread kindness. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is spread kindness. And the people that are angry, or the people that are petty and hold grudges and or show some type of anger towards other people or don't like to see other people win, I think beat them with kindness. And I think that's my best. I think that's one of my best qualities is I could know somebody hates me or dislikes me, and I'm going to smile. I'm going to tell them, hey, how are you? I'm going to go up to them and say, hey, what's going on? How are you? Like, I'm a very big person that I put all that aside, and I'm still going to show you kindness from me because that's not the type of person that I am.
Yeah, you know, and I respect that, and I love that about you. That, you know, and I just had this conversation with somebody recently. I said, I know what you want to say, and I know you have every right to be upset, and I know you have every right to, you know, speak your mind, and this person was 100% wrong. I said, but what you're going to do is you're going to get up in the morning, and you're going to go there, and if you see that person, you are going to be kind, because that is who you are. You're not going to stoop to their level. You're not going to go down to that. And, you know, I think it's hilarious that anybody could be mean in today's world, because A, you don't know what someone's going through. B, nobody's life is 100% easy all the time. C, what are you mad about? Like, and the reality is like this, okay? You get a head coaching job, somebody wanted that job, so they might hate you forever. You know, you date somebody that somebody else wants to date, so they might hate you forever. You work with a client that somebody else want to work with, so they hate you forever. You get the house that everybody else 10 people put in offers for, they didn't get it, so they hate you. And some people just hate you. My mom told me one time, she walked into a supermarket, and she was doing a reset, working for, I think it was Nabisco Food Company, and she walks in there, and she feels this woman look at her. And she just feels like negativity. She feels like this bad energy. And this woman keeps staring at her. And my mom walked up to her. She said, excuse me, like, do I know you? And the woman said no. And she said, well, do you have a problem with me? Like, I get the sense that for some reason you're not okay with me. And the woman said right to her face, she goes, I don't know you, but the moment I saw your face, I didn't like you. And my mom was like, okay. Like,
well, great. Talk to you later.
You know, but it's, you know, in the world we live in today, in really in any day, surround yourself with good people. I always say this to God. I say, when I can choose the people when I am in the position to choose the people I'm going to be around, help me to choose wisely. When I cannot choose the people in a situation where I have to go somewhere and to do something, and I can't choose the people around me, help me to be strong and help me to be like you. Because I will tell you flat out seriously, and you're going to laugh when I say it, but it's true as all true. When I sit on press row with the media, ain't none of them people do I want to take home and hang out with. So, I got a couple friends in the media, but I'm like Britney Spears in that song where she was like talking about being in a room of all these people and she feels so lonely. Like, I remember going to the Big East tournament and there was 300 media people in the room, and if I could find 3 nice people, that was pushing it. So like, the reality of it all for me is when people are like, man, Dan, I hate the media. They twist this around. They did this to me as a coach, da, da, da. And I was like, bro, I get it. I understand. Like, I'm like Drake. I'm like, no new friends. But that's why I want to shout out the good people that are out there, like my guy Isaac and whatnot. I mean, we just sit there and, we're with like a bunch of ornery people that look like, the epitome of what it would be like to, I don't know, be constipated forever. And we're sitting there watching the game, laughing with each other, enjoying it, saying, in a sea of all this mean, we're going to be happy, we're going to smile, and we're going to enjoy life, because you can never get April 7th, 2022 back again. Yeah. So why let somebody who wants to be miserable and wants you to be miserable? And the thing is, if they make you miserable, they're still miserable. They're not happy. They're just going to be mad about something else. So, I mean, it's imperative to be positive, as hard as it is. And I think, to bring it all back to women's basketball, I am completely appalled at, the hypocrisy and the craziness that I hear. But at the same time, I am pleasantly excited, because when I watched the women's national championship this year, and I really just sat on the edge of my bed and took it all in, I was like, why wouldn't somebody watch this? Like, this is really good basketball. This is good sports. Like, ball is ball. And, I sat there and I watched Dawn Staley talk, and she called out ESPN, and she called out like the networks and the broadcast, and she's like, you guys are here now, but like, you guys weren't here before. It's nice to have you, but where have you been? And I was like, Dawn, good for you.
Yeah, and she's awesome. I mean, she's a coach that I think a lot of these young girls are going to look up to and say, like, I could be her. And that's something that's super special. I mean, same thing. I mean, watching that championship game, it just gives you chills. It's like, this is awesome. This is on a primetime network. This is great. Everybody can watch it if they'd like. It's exciting to see where we're going as a women's basketball kind of over everything. Like, it's exciting. It's exciting to see what's going to happen in the future for women's basketball.
Yeah, and so for you, before I let you go, Gabby, Susquehanna Riverhawks women's basketball head coach, hanging out on Wake Up Call inside the Cafe Kubal studios. As you looked at the growth of the tournament and some other things that have been going on, like we talked about with selection show and the amount of teams and whatnot, where are we in the state of women's basketball as far as where you would like it to be? Where is it now in your sense as you look at the men's game and the women's game and how they're both handled?
Yeah, I think definitely, Dan, we're still far away to where we want to be, but I think that we are inching in the right direction. And I think that the right steps are being taken to get us to that place of the promised land of where we want to be, and to be at the forefront with like just how men's basketball is. I mean, women's basketball should just be right up there with them. Yes, we are different. Of course, they're men, we're women. But at the same time, it's the same sport. We're playing basketball, the sport that we all love, and the one that we grew up with, playing on the streets and at the courts in the neighborhood. I mean, I think that that's something that everybody who is a loyal basketball fan, that isn't just in there to be fans of LeBron or Steph Curry, I think the people that really truly get basketball and are fans of the sport know that women's basketball is and will be at that forefront just as men's basketball is. Obviously, we need the sponsorship. We need the networks to be able to go in tune with that, the NCAA. But at the same time, I think that we are inching towards that area where we want to be. It's going to take, obviously, time. But at the same time, I think definitely with this tournament this year, we've taken a couple big steps forward. And I'm excited to see where women's basketball kind of goes.
Dawn Staley, 4 Final Fours in the last 7 years, the only 2 championships in South Carolina history. What do you think about what she's building?
Oh my goodness, Dawn Staley is a goat. I mean, that's it. She's a goat. She's somebody that is a phenomenal coach. She was a phenomenal player. I remember her from the Olympic team. Obviously, she went to Temple, and those games were not televised and/or streamed for us to see. But her being on the Olympic team, I think that's definitely, she was a phenomenal player, phenomenal coach. She won the two national championships, and they have a great team. And you could tell that her players respect her. They have fun with her. She's phenomenal to follow on social media, Twitter and Instagram. She's great. I think that she's going to do a lot of great things, and you're going to be hearing about South Carolina probably next year and years to come. She took that program from basically nothing to where it's at, winning national championships now. So it's exciting to see her do that, and be a woman of color to be able to do that, and just being somebody, as I said, where little girls can look up and say, like, I want to be Dawn Staley. And that's something that I think is definitely great for our game of basketball.
That coming from Gabby Holko. Gabby, as always, I appreciate it. I owe you an off-the-air phone call, but in the meantime, I hope everything is going well in Sealands Grove, and obviously wish the best to you and your family, and hope everyone's staying healthy and staying safe.
Absolutely, Dan. Thanks so much for having me on, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Take care.
Bye-bye.
See ya. That coming from Gabby Holko once again on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We're going to take a quick step aside here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. And when we come back, we will have Katie Kolinski here with us in a video special to continue the conversation on where we are in women's basketball. Coming up next here, where sports meets life.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the Whole Frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge, and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item, available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Make sure you make your way out to the Millhouse Market today and every Tuesday through Sunday for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. A fantastic way to connect yourself with our Central New York community, and you can stay connected at all times by downloading their app for free on the Apple app or Google Play Store by going and searching Millhouse Market. And once you have that, you'll have their entire menu at your fingertips, including the sandwiches that help to settle sandwiches from the families that helped to settle today's Pulaski, ingrained in our taste buds and ingrained in our community. The Millhouse Market is there for you with their indoor dining bistro menu, which is in their final week of the bistro menu, so don't miss out on that. They will have deli and pizza and other pieces available throughout the week from here, but the bistro menu that changes every week, this is the final week to enjoy that at the Millhouse Market. So come out to the Millhouse Market this weekend and enjoy some of that. You can also head out there today. And of course, they have their drive-through window to grab your food and go. And of course, they have their general store with local products from local companies, and you can get syrups and honeys and different things for your kitchen, jewelry and whatnot, soaps, and all of these amazing products that are made locally and shared locally inside of the general store of the Millhouse Market. It is imperative to support Central and Upstate New York, support local business and small business, and support the incredible people at the Millhouse Market. Your taste buds will always be thankful that you took them out to 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, and I am always, always honored to connect with the Millhouse Market, so make sure you head out there today. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. You're watching and listening on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /Wake Up Call DT worldwide. You're also listening on Facebook.com and watching on Facebook.com /Live Now DT. And of course on internet streaming radio worldwide on MixLR.com /Wake Up Call DT and on the homepage wakeupcalldt.com. I am ecstatic to have my guest here inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. She is no stranger to the broadcast. We have spent many a time together, and that is Miss Katie Kolinski, your Lafayette Leopards women's basketball assistant coach inside of the Patriot League in Division I women's basketball. So, with that being said, Miss Kolinski, how are you?
You always give me the best introduction, and it's like never worthy of that great, but I appreciate the introduction every time. And we're doing well. You know, it's off-season time, but it doesn't feel like off-season because there's always work to be done. So, we're plugging along each day.
Well, I agree with most things that you say, but I disagree that you don't deserve the introduction. If I gave a proper introduction, it would have taken longer. It would have had more accolades. But fantastic friend before coach, great person, and an awesome mom. And I got to tell you, like, seeing your little one out there doing her thing, and I mean, she definitely looks like personality in a bottle. So I'm sure you have fun with her.
Yeah, no, it's such a process being a mom. You know, learning each day, and she's literally a bundle of joy. She's happy every day, and her happiness just brings me happiness. It's funny though, like when our season ended. You don't really realize how hard it is what you're doing. Obviously being a single mom, coaching, not really having much family out here until like it was over, and I just kind of like exhaled a little bit. I was like, sheesh, that was a long year. It was a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of work to get done in the basketball season, and taking care of a child, another human being. It definitely, like, I took a minute, like, whew, we did make it though. We made it through the season, so I'm very grateful for that.
What is it like juggling? I know you and I talked about it when it initially started, but I'm sure that you grow and you learn, and there's things that you've learned over time of balancing being a mom and an assistant coach. I mean, obviously you're recruiting, you're game planning, you're scheming, you're getting things ready, you're going through practice, you're going through game preparation, the game itself, and at the same time you're being a mom, and then on top of that you got to make sure you take care of yourself. So how have you balanced all of it?
Yeah, I probably don't take care of myself as much as I need to, sleep-wise and eating healthy, because my focus during the day is pretty much her. So, each, like, we have an academic day, so we only can practice from 4 to 6 or 6 to 8. Daycare is only open till 5:30. So, practice time. So in my mind, I'm like, each week I got to figure out like, okay, who can watch her during practice? Like, who can I text? Who can I pay for a babysitter? Then we have games. So I'm like, all right, who can watch her during our game? If it's a home game. All right, it's a road game. Again, I'm by myself out here. All right, who's going to watch her for the road game? Do I take her with me? Does my family come out? There's so many variables that can go into that. So my thought process all day. And then I'm like, all right, I drop her off at daycare. I might not get home till 8 o'clock at night or 8:30 from the whole work day. She's at practice. Like, what am I going to feed her for dinner? I don't have all this time to make dinner. So like literally my days are just spent on like, all right, like, how am I going to feed her? What am I going to feed her next? Like, who's going to watch her today? What do I got to do to figure it out? And then on top of that, I got to think about, scouting reports, team travel, itineraries, meals for our team. So, it's just a lot. But if you can time manage, and you just keep going, like, you just have no option, she's my motivation. I think every day I wake up, I'm like, I'm not going to give up because, she's watching me. So that's kind of my motivation, but, it's hard at the same time. I'm not going to, sugarcoat it. It's definitely very, very, very hard. Sometimes everyone's like, well, you make it look so easy. I'm like, I got no choice. Again, she counts on me. She counts on me to have dinner. She counts on me to have breakfast. I got to bring her to daycare every day. I got to pick her up every day. So a lot of that just falls on me. And it, at the same time, though, I would never trade this, job for the world. I'd never trade being a mom. And it's just lessons learned. And I feel like since having my child and doing what I'm doing, I feel like I can do anything. I'm like, there's nothing that can be thrown my way that I feel like I can't do. So I'm just grateful, for it all, the ups and downs, the bad days, the hard days, it's all worth it. So.
Well, and that's the thing is like to put on top of all of that and respect that. I mean, you're a single parent. So, like that in and of itself, anybody who's been in the world of coaching, I mean, I have Lily, my dog, and she's my daughter. She's my kid. And I running around and like, I wasn't home. I got to do this. I don't want to leave her in the kennel. Oh my gosh, she's been home. So like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think about it from the level of like my dog and then times it by a million with, having your kid there and everything. It's caring about another life, right? It's putting somebody before yourself. Be it, taking care of your child or an animal or, when I live with my grandmother and taking care of her in her 90s, like someone who literally relies on you to be fed, to have what they need. And it's an incredibly, I don't want to take away from anybody, whatever their situation is, but you do it as a single parent and you're so real about it. You'd say right off the bat from when we started talking about it, you said, listen, Dan, it's hard. It's not easy. It's stressful. It's hard to make it all work and find daycare and whatnot. But, here we are all this time down the road and you're here, she's here, you guys are doing it. And I think it's going to make you I think you're going to end up being your own inspiration because of what you've done. And I feel like when you look back on these years as she grows up, I feel like you're going to be like, I know I could do anything because, well, like you said, because I'm doing this, I can do anything. And I think as hard as it is right now, you're shaping up to be probably the strongest person in your life.
No, for sure. I think, like I said, I kind of went back on the season and, I don't know if people know this either. Like I tore my meniscus during the season. So now not only am I taking care of a child by myself, but I'm on crutches. And, how do you carry your kid to the car and you're not allowed to drive? So how do you drop her to daycare? How do I get to my appointment? Then I have surgery and how am I going to take care of my kid? And, I'm still coaching basketball this year. And it was a lot. And I had to navigate every day, like finding who's going to bring her to daycare, who's going to bring me to the doctor. And I luckily had a really good support system here from my coaching staff to, people in the community to we have an athletic trainer, Matt Bailey, who he had his daughters go to school at Lafayette. And he told his daughters, like, anything Katie needs, like, please help her. So they were bringing me to appointments. Like, it was just stuff like that really carries me through. I had family come up here on weekends, my brother, my dad, my mom, other family members. Like, it just takes a village, and even though I'm out here by myself for most of the time, but when I need people, like, they show up. And I think that's the biggest thing. I've learned is like, I can't totally do it on my own. Even though I want to be superwoman all the time, I definitely still need some help. And it's just lessons learned. And, it's just each day, all I keep telling myself, like, I just got to get through tomorrow. How can I get through tomorrow? How can I make sure my daughter's good just tomorrow? And then, it makes it a little easier for sure.
Well, it's awesome to see the fight, and it's awesome to see everything that you have done. I love your tenacity. I love, the thing is, and I'm strong in my faith, a firm believer in God. You will get this back tenfold. Everything that you do for your daughter, it will come back. And I'm excited, to see those moments where, it just reminds me of like the pursuit of happiness, right? And just that moment where you get to kind of lift your hands up in the sky and kind of have those tears of joy to say, it was worth it. And I worked hard for this because, you're living your dreams and you're helping to set up your daughter to do that herself. And, it's incredible, Katie. And so, I know, like you said, I just want to get to the next day, but I would challenge you to say before you get to the next day, to say thank you for the day that you got, because you inspire so many of us. And I feel like you don't always know that, like, your effect on us is so tremendous. I remember the first day that we actually talked, I remember being in the middle of nowhere in Omaha, Nebraska. And I remember, I found out that you were leaving, and I was like, we would walk by each other so many times, and I wanted to say hello. And it's like, Dan, and something told me, like, don't leave the moment. Like, don't let this person walk out of Syracuse and not get to know her. And you were walking across, and I was like going to the locker room, and I said, hey, what's up to you? And, we talked, and here we are. If you don't have moments like that, we're not talking all these years later. And, you've been nothing but an inspiration for me and, your family, your dad, what he, has tried to do, and his campaign that he had within the last couple of years. Like, there's a lot of fantastic things with the Kolinski family. I think you should be happy.
No, I appreciate that for sure. And it's just funny, how things come together. And that's why I really do believe in God, and, things are supposed to happen the way they're supposed to happen. And, obviously Omaha, Nebraska, Coach K, that was my last game at Syracuse. They beat us, and I got to shake his hand after the game, and, memories like that. And, the Syracuse community as a whole, from all the writers to you, Dan, to, people that cover Syracuse basketball, like, you guys were so amazing towards me and telling my story. I think that's really big is, obviously as I go through it, but there was always people that was willing to tell, what I was going through, or tell my story, or, being the first female grad assistant with the team, or, whatever the case may be, from Mike, Donna, and then like, they were always, really good to me. And, from the whole community, like, Syracuse basketball fans still tweet at me. Syracuse basketball fans are still, reaching out to me, and like, that means a lot to me. Just from, it's where I'm from, like, Syracuse is in my DNA. Like, I have Syracuse tattooed on me. I go back to Syracuse a lot of weekends in the off season, because my whole family's there. So like, Syracuse just means like everything to me, and I went to a Syracuse lacrosse game this last weekend for Kayla Trainer, and I went to the Dome for the, spring game. Like, I'm like a Syracuse fan like anyone else now. I watch the games and I support them. So, I'm definitely grateful for everything that you have done for me, Dan, and the whole, honestly, Syracuse community. So,
well, obviously happy to, happy to help anybody, but when you help good people and you see good people succeed, like that's the game changer. I'm not going to fault you that you're a Lakers fan, because we know that's a problem. But, I'm very, and, I'll tell people here, and we always do a lot of, phone calls and stuff, but picture in picture here to let everybody know, there was only one person that I watched my team, 24 years in the making, Toronto Raptors, win a national championship with, the first ever NBA championship that they've ever had. There's only one person I did that with, and that is Miss Katie Kolinski. And we stayed all the way through to try and hear Kawhi speak. So, like you said, memories and the things that are important from that first time of talking to each other in the hallway for real. And then, 2019 to watch the Raptors win a championship. And really after that, like, the world stopped. So you and I got to do something that we thought was going to be like a normal thing every year. And then after that, we've been going through the pandemic and all that. So I can honestly tell you that I need my good luck charm. So like the Raptors back in the playoffs, I'm going to need you to kind of like sneak back into Cuse for a little bit and maybe watch a couple of these games with me, because I got to make sure my team that's finally home, because they were the only displaced team last year, which was ridiculous, to see what they could do, and knowing that that the playoffs are coming back north, which is a good thing.
Yeah, no, Dan, I come up there a lot. I come up on the weekends, for my daughter to see her family, and I'm always up there, so I'm always down to catch a game for sure. To be around good people.
And I agree wholeheartedly. And Katie, you mentioned Syracuse, and obviously born and raised in Central New York native, and how much you love Syracuse, and obviously the connection to West Jenny, and I do a lot of work with West Jenny at the Wildcat, and knowing your history with them. And so from West Jenny to Cuse to the history you made on the men's basketball team, you've obviously gotten to know Buddy and Jimmy and the Boeheim family. Albeit the fact that it was from a few hours away, and you're in your season at Lafayette doing your thing, what was it like to see the three-headed Boeheim on the Syracuse team, and to see Buddy ball out for the years he's been here, and then see Jimmy ball out too, but not in a red jersey, in an orange jersey? What was that like for you?
Honestly, it was just amazing to see, because I worked with Syracuse basketball for 7 years, and my first year with them was 2011, 2012, I believe, which would have been 10 years ago. So if you do the math, Buddy was 8, my first year with the team. So I literally watched Buddy from when he was 8 years old, if I'm doing the math correctly. I might not be, because it's, early in the morning, but from 8 years old on to playing for Syracuse men's basketball, like I would have never guessed it. But the one thing I will say about Buddy is I don't think he was a Division I basketball player. He made himself into one.
Yeah.
Like literally, I mean, obviously he has the size and everything, and he can shoot the heck out of the ball, but he put so much work into the weight room. Like if he didn't have his work ethic into the weight room and everything else, he wouldn't have been a Division I basketball player. I really believe that. Like that's most people though, but he has such a drive and work ethic that I've never seen before, where like it would be Christmas and he's like, yo, I'm going into the gym today. I need to get a weight room workout in. And like even the work he did with Ryan Kabilis, the strength coach, is unbelievable. Like I don't think Ryan Kabilis gets enough credit. That guy is unbelievable in his development of those guys in the weight room and their strength training. Like he's definitely like a hidden gem of Syracuse basketball. I will say that. And then just to see Jimmy be able to play and Boeheim coach his sons. And like, I know someone said Boeheim made a comment like, wins or losses or whatever this year, but I got to coach my sons. And you know what, being a mom, like that's amazing. And when people are like, well, Boeheim wants to win more than anybody I know. I've never seen someone with such a will to win games. But just for him to say that, like, that just shows like what it meant for Coach Boeheim. And, for me, I'm a huge fan of Coach Boeheim. I know I say this all the time. Even to this day, like I texted Julie Boeheim a couple of days ago, asking her a couple questions about some things, and, she responds and she helps me and she looks out for me. And they're just great people. I could call Coach Boeheim right now, and if I needed a favor or needed something, like he's going to find a way to help me. So just their family as a whole and watching them play and Buddy play, I think was really remarkable. And even like G-Mac and his development and Eric Devendorf and his development. And then Jimmy, he's been working with Red for years. So I think just seeing Jimmy, the development he did and, the work he put in with Red, and, you could just see it all come together. And I really thought was, incredible.
Well, and you actually, the thing that you addressed that the Jim Boeheim said, that was the answer to my question at the ACC tournament when I asked him about, just what he can say, what his sons would say and what he can say about them. And that's when he said, well, they still have my credit card, so they're going to say nice things about me. And then he went on to say, this has been his favorite season. And I put that up, and people like ripped on him about it. And they're like, really, Jim? Like, you didn't have a winning season. Like, what about 2003? And I was like, y'all don't understand. Like, you win a national championship, you're coaching your kids in Division I basketball in the ACC, both of them together. Like, who in their right mind would say that that's not the greatest achievement of the family as a whole? Like, people don't really get that. It's not about wins and losses. Like, you want to win. Buddy wanted to win more than anything. Jimmy, it killed him that they didn't win that game against Duke in the ACC tournament so Buddy could come back. Like, they took that upon themselves. It was personal, and Jim felt that. But from getting to know Jim for the last, I don't know, decade, and getting to know Jimmy over the past year and knowing Buddy for like at least 6 years now or whatever it is at this point, to build the relationships that I have with them, like, greatest thing in the world to hear that. And I would hope that my dad would say that. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't understand how fans don't get, like, yes, this is more important than 2003 because how many people get to coach their kids? 0.0000000000001% of Division I coaches. I mean, this is unheard of by. And listen, it may never happen again. It may happen once or twice. Like, that's how fleeting it is.
Yeah, no, 100%. You know, people always want to have something to talk about and make a negative out about everything. And it's like, man, just enjoy the greatness while you can. You know, like, Boeheim's not going to be around forever. You just enjoy it. Like, he's still recruiting. He's still Boeheim. He's still managing the team. And I guarantee even when they went on, like, losing streaks this season or whatever the case may be, he's coaching the same every day. Like, he's not looking at the record like everyone else is. He's just focused on the next minute, the next play, because that mentality that he does have actually propelled us through a lot of seasons when I was there. From when we lost like 6 games a year. I think we went to the Final Four with MCW. The year we went to the Sweet 16, my last year when we were on the bubble and we were losing some games. Like, his mentality and what he does is what makes him him. And if Coach Boeheim wasn't who he was, we wouldn't have went to the tournament some of those years, or we would have given up during the year, or we wouldn't have been playing the way we were playing, because he just literally comes in with a mindset like, all right, next play mentality. I don't care if we're 0-10. And I think people need to, you know, appreciate that about Boeheim more. And I think people need to have more of appreciation for Coach Boeheim because he's not going to be here forever, you know? So enjoy him while you can, because, you know, it's not always greener on the other side.
Well, you know, and that's the thing, like, the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's green where you water it.
Exactly.
And he's been watering the grass as a head coach for 46 years, you know, and I tell people, I said, listen, do I agree with every single thing that Jim Boeheim does? No. But do I agree with every single thing that my mom does or my best friend does? No. Like, I don't agree with every single play, every single moment of every single game, but I'm a student of the game. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to understand where he comes from. I respect him. 45 out of 46 years he's had a winning season. He's brought them to the Final Four in, what was it, 5 different decades? Like, this man deserves the respect. And like you said, when he's gone, people are going to lose their minds. People still miss Paul Pasqualoni from Syracuse football, and that was 2001.
Yep.
21 years ago. So, like, you know what I mean? It's the reality of, like, Coach K not at Duke. That, you know, is a giant task to try to have to fill. You know, it's with anything. It's Jim Boeheim at Syracuse. It's Bill Belichick with the Patriots. You know, I'm sure it was Tom Landry with the Cowboys. It's just reality. You know, I mean, it's Joe Torre with the Yankees. When those moments end, you never forget that. You know, like, if you tell me, like, what were the glory days of the Yankees that I grew up with, I'm always going to talk about Joe Torre. You know, so I mean, it's part of reality. Is it's so easy to complain, but when you're used to 25 wins a season and Sweet 16 as a fan, like, you're very spoiled because it is so difficult to get in the tournament. And I thought it was great when I talked to Bob Holliday of WRAL Sports Fans, a good friend of mine in the media, and it's slim to none that you find any friends in the media. And Bob, you know, just one of those guys that him and I were talking about it, and we were talking about the ACC, and I said, they said this year, soft, weak, not good enough, down year, can't compete with other conferences. I never said any of those things. The reality was the ACC top to bottom was so good that they were beating the heck out of each other. And he said it. He goes, what this season has shown you is that Syracuse and Wake Forest should have made the NCAA tournament because regardless of record, they would have beaten somebody.
I was watching the tournament like with my dad, and I'm like, Syracuse would have beat these teams. Like some of the teams couldn't even score 40 points in the games. I'm like, this is some bad basketball. I'm like, you couldn't tell me Syracuse basketball wasn't good enough to be in this tournament. And obviously they didn't have enough wins, but if Jesse Edwards doesn't go down, I think they get enough wins towards the end. I do.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm excited about seeing what's to come for sure. I'm struggling with the Buddy thing. I got a special coming up with Buddy, and him and I have a friendship above everything else that started, I don't even know, like a year and a half before he came to Syracuse. And it's so, like I said to him, I go, Syracuse basketball alum, and I go, dude, and he laughed, and I'm like, bro, I can't like function with that right now, but because it went so fast. But I'm so grateful for him. One of the top 20 scorers of all time in Syracuse basketball history. I mean, he's incredible, and he has proven so many people wrong. And Jimmy's best game of his collegiate career was the game against Duke that Buddy wasn't in. It was the last game of the season, and I think it was 28 points, hitting threes. Just you could tell he was trying to everybody was trying to will them above Duke, above a team that made it to the Final Four. This is the same team that brought North Carolina in Chapel Hill to overtime, and Caleb Love had to hit a big-time shot, just like he had to do against Baylor, just like he had to do in other games in the tournament. I mean, people forget 50% of this year's Final Four out of 358 Division I men's basketball teams, those two teams had to go to the brink of losing again to Syracuse to try and stretch that out and figure that out. So this Syracuse team that people aren't really proud of pushed half of the Final Four to the brink of losing.
No, for sure. And I think the future's bright with the young guys that they have coming in. And, I think Syracuse fans just got to hang tight. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Just take a deep breath. Good things take time. And, it's not always going to be pretty, but you got to trust the system, trust Coach Boeheim, and the guy knows what he's doing. That's all I'll say.
Katie Kolinski here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Made history spending 7 years on the Syracuse staff as the first grad assistant there that's ever, for a woman to be on staff in that role, and for that longevity as well. An incredible feat and a beautiful thing. And I want to thank Coach Boeheim and the whole staff for giving Katie a chance, because, it's not about just making history. It's about the quality of the person that you hire, regardless of background, nationality, gender, whatever it may be. And Katie obviously has more than proven herself, and that she's worth it here with the Lafayette Leopards now in Division I women's basketball as an assistant coach. I want to shift to the women's side of things. We've seen an evolution, and albeit, here's the men's game and here's the women's game, just like the men are doing, this and the women are kind of very, very slow. And not because the women aren't good, but because the respect wasn't there and the equality wasn't there. 68 teams for the first time ever in the women's basketball tournament. They have playing games like the men have playing games. They now have the same amount of teams. What do you think about the evolution of the NCAA tournament for Division I women's basketball? And what was it like for you to finally see that the men and the women had the same amount of teams? Part one of the question. Part two, that Selection Sunday was for both.
Yeah, I think when you start to, put money into the women's game, you're going to start to see people respect it. And I think you're going to see that people do like the women's game. It just got to have, what's it called? It needs to be shown more, and putting the games on ESPN and putting the main games on ESPN. And I'm so tired of the women's game. It used to be on like ESPN 360 or whatever. It needs to be on the main channels. And once you get the games on the main channels, people are going to be able to find the games and be able to tune into the games. And I also think that a lot of the women's players are so marketable, from Paige Beckers, Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, even Emily Engstler, at Louisville. Like these players, like they all have stories, and people want to hear their stories, and giving them a platform to do this and giving them the resources that they deserve, and putting it on Selection Sunday and giving them 68 teams. It should have always been like that, and it was really on the NCAA to make it even, and viewership's up. I wonder why, because, it's out there more. The girls are out there more. It's on the main channels more. So, I even, I said during COVID, what's it called? Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird did like a Instagram live talk during COVID. It was like the greatest thing ever. I loved every minute of it. And I'm like, if they would do more things like this and get their voices out there more, like people want to hear what Diana Taurasi says. Yeah. People want to hear what Sue Bird says. People want to hear what Brianna Stewart has to say. People want to know what Maya Moore has to say. And I think, giving women a platform to be able to tell their stories and go out even on like Instagram Live and things like that. And like I said, all the women's players in college basketball all have stories, and they need to be told and they need to be shown. And people are going to follow. How many young girls are in the world? Young girls need to see women that look like them be able to show that they can be anything they want to be and be on a platform like that and be successful. And this is what I have to say, when the people are on, Twitter and stuff saying bad things about women or women's basketball is not real. It's like, if you have a daughter and you're saying that, go check yourself, please. Like, I really wanted to say, go check yourself, because your young girl is hearing you. She's seeing your actions. Instead of tweeting, you need to be bringing her to the nearest basketball game so she has someone to look up to. And that's how things change. Like, any father in this world needs to be taking their daughters to games. Support women. Let them see what it looks like. And I'm very passionate about this because I really do think women are disrespected often, and I think it needs to stop. I think it's time to, like I said, the NCAA put the time and effort into it, and look at the result. Look at how many fans were at that national championship game. Yeah, there's money to be made. I saw on Twitter the other day too, like the most Twitter followers gained through the NCAA tournament player wise. A lot of the top followers were women's basketball who had the increase in followers. So there's a platform to be made. There's money to be made, and like I said, I think we're going to see more of this, but, Paige Beckers and all them, like, it's fun watching them and they have the personalities. And I think just making them out there more so people can see it and fall in love with them just as much, I think things will keep changing a little bit more.
Well, and that's the thing, it's like when you don't put the money in the tournament and you don't put remember, it wasn't too long ago that you didn't see any of the women's basketball tournament, NCAA Division I tournament games until you got to the end. It's like, oh, okay, we're going to watch the national championship with UConn. Like, you didn't get to see the round of like
any of them,
a round of 32, Sweet 16, like nothing. There was nothing. There was no, and I can't even believe, like, looking back on that, and as a man, and I can imagine as a woman, Katie, that we grew up at a time where the women's tournament, we would hear that it was coming, we would know that it exists, we would hear nothing once it began, and then we would get to see the end. I remember looking in the newspaper trying to find the bracket for the women. Like, I was sitting there going, like, why do I have to fight so hard to find this? Yeah. I mean, how weird is it for you to think back on the fact that only within the last few years here have we actually seen every round of the women's tournament, which to me is appalling that we don't even get to see the road to the championship when you and I were growing up.
Well, it's a clear message from the NCAA and ESPN and partners that women and their game just are important. And that's the message that's getting put out there, and when that's the message that's getting put out there, it's not by what people say, it's by actions, right? So the actions were showing that. I don't have to ask the NCAA. I don't have to talk to ESPN. It was shown. And I think, finally people are speaking up. I think it was Sedona Prince from Oregon who made light of, their weight room at the, in the bubble and things like that. And, we're finally seeing equality. It's always been talked about equality, but it hasn't been backed up. And I think the more equality you're getting shown, I think the more you're seeing that people are going to support it. And I really do think it's great. And, I'm hoping we continue this trend, and I'm hoping we're going farther away from men who have bad things to say about women who play sports, because I'm like, just keep your opinions to yourself. You don't have to say anything, because we're equally as important over here.
Well, and I posted something about, Felicia Leggett-Jack, and the fact that in it well in advance, I was like, I think she's going to get the job at Syracuse. and somebody had posted, and I immediately banned them out of the group. Somebody had posted, why is the media still continuing? Like, it was a shot at me, it was a shot at the media, it was a shot at women more than anything else. And I'm paraphrasing, but they said, why is the media trying to shove women's sports down our throats? We all know that they're not as good as men. We all know their sports aren't important. So why are you trying? Like, they were mad at me for posting about Felicia because women's sports don't matter. And they wanted me and all of the media to stop trying to talk to them about women because women don't matter. And that was a message sent a few weeks ago in the year 2022. And
Well,
I was like, wow.
Well, the funny part about that is too, one thing they're going to learn about Coach Jack real quick is she's really, really, really big on her player stories being told, her story being told, her staff story being told, and she's coming. I really hope Syracuse fans and the community and media really go along for the ride, because it's really incredible how she brings it all together and the energy she's going to bring to Syracuse basketball. And she's going to make sure her player stories are told. And deservingly so. Women's basketball is important. It's important in the community. It's important for that little girl who lives across from the Dome to know, that she's important. She's going to be important one day. And when I tell you Coach Jack is going to be the one to put those stories out there, she's coming. And it's going to be really incredible to see. I think people are going to see Coach Jack in the community. I think they're going to see Coach Jack speaking about things that are important. And I think she's really going to make a connection between the community and women's basketball at Syracuse. And, I think it's amazing that she's back at Syracuse, just as her alma mater, being one of the best players to go through there. And, she's going to make sure she's heard. So, buckle up, because it's going to be really awesome to see their stories being told.
Yeah. And the thing is like you said, and going back to what you said about stories need to be told, whatever. People grew up, right? And you said you don't need to talk to the powers that be because it was clear. It was clear by ESPN. It was clear by any of the CBS and any of these places. It was clear by the NCAA that it was like men's tournament, watch every game. Women's tournament, watch the end. Division II and Division III, nobody cares. Like, that was what was pushed to us. And I know people in the D1, D2, D3, JUCO level, and I know people on the men's side, know people on the women's side. So to me, everybody matters, and they always have. But now, even more so, I can tell you that I love telling these stories. I tell the stories of Marywood University D3. I tell the stories of OCC JUCO. I tell the stories of Oswego State D3. I tell the stories of Lemoyne D2. And so I know these worlds, and I tell the stories of the Albany's D1 on the women's side, and Binghamton D1 on the women's side, and speaking with you, Katie, about Lafayette D1 on the women's side. So, I have a dog in every race, and to me, you should care. I mean, I watched the women's championship before the men's championship, and I was sitting here going, like, why do people not watch? Like, I tell people, the basketball is basketball. Like, dude, like, it's not like the game. It's not like when women play basketball, totally different rules, and there's a different this and there's a different that, and 3-point doesn't exist, and you can't do a layup. Like, basketball is basketball, and when somebody can ball, it's respect. And I grew up in the game. I played organized since I was 7. It's one of the places that is my peace. I love a court, a ball, and silence. So when I watch the game, I watch the game, and I love the game. And I got to do something, and I never knew this about my mom. I brought my mom out to Lemoyne. Mary Grimes, big fan, came from Xavier, and she was an assistant coach at Lemoyne with Gina Castelli when they won their first ever NE10 conference tournament. And then she came back, and this was just her first season as the head coach, and she brought him to the NCAA tournament as an at-large bid. My mom and I were sitting in Ted Grant Court watching the game, and we were right like caddy corner to the bench. And my mom said in the middle of the game, she goes, she's like, this is the first women's game I've ever been to. I was like, for real? And she was like, yeah, like, I've never been to a women's game. And she told Mary after, and Mary's like, well, I hope that I'm happy we won. I'm happy you got to see that. But You know, my mom's a woman, and when she was growing up, there was no writing, there was no information, there was no anything, you know, for her. And so to bring her out to that game, and she was surprised. She's like, wow, like this is good. Like, because that's the thing, again, like this perception that it's different. And my mom loved it. She got heated. She got involved. She got, you know, like she was, you know, commenting on plays. I mean, I love the fact that she finally got to go. But how many people have never been to a game, you know, is my question. And, you know, why are we in it? Like, ball is ball. And I'm telling you, like, I've seen women's basketball teams at colleges and universities that blow the men's team out of the water. And I started my career at Marywood University with MU courtside. And they said, we're going to do the men's games. And I said, well, what about the women's games? Well, nobody watches those. I was like, well, I want to do both. I said, I want to make people watch them. I want to make them listen to them. I don't care if they tune in 10 minutes before the men's game because they want to be ready and they catch it, but I'm going to do both. And so, I mean, I've always lived in the world of, if there's a double header, why do I come here and broadcast the game at 8, but not the game at 6? That's disrespectful to the women's team.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there just needs to be more people like you, Dan, that are advocating for it. You know, and I think, you know, more people have to go out and see games so they can see, you know, women play. And you got women dunking now, and, you know, the execution, the late game execution, and some of the close games in the NCAA tournament, and, you know, just things like that. It's just really fun to watch, you know, and I think we're getting there slowly but surely, but, you know, we're still a far way away. And I think it goes back to what you said about your mom. Like, you just got to, well, not that's why your mom didn't go to a game, but, you know, you just got to go and see for yourself and see what you like and don't like. And, you know, don't judge something until you go, you know, and if you go and you don't like it, then cool. Yeah. You know, but you don't got to talk bad about it either. So yeah. That's kind of where I'm at.
I go and see, like, I went and saw the Batman and I went and saw Morbius. Wasn't a big fan of Morbius, but constructively, I was like, this is what I saw. This is what I hoped for. But I didn't go on and tweet at Jared Leto. I didn't go attack all the people on the show. I didn't come out and say, I didn't go on Rotten Tomatoes and give it 0 stars. I didn't write a long dissertation about why they suck at what they do. It's like, hey, you know what? There's movies I liked more than it. And I probably liked Morbius more than I've liked other movies. But this is the way I look at life. Nobody's trying to fail at making a movie. Nobody's trying to fail at coaching. Nobody's trying to fail. Nobody's trying to lose a game. So please have respect. Somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. And if you don't like it, that's fine. There's cereals I don't like. So I buy Lucky Charms and I move about my life. And if you don't like that I'm a grown man that eats Lucky Charms, I don't care. I got a king-size box in my house, and that's how it's always going to be. So, you know, like, I want to get to Dawn Staley because, seriously, this woman is so inspirational. And I love the fact that, like, after the game, they just carried it through. I felt like it was on for like 2 hours after. I know it wasn't that long, but it felt like that. And she was just sitting there speaking her mind. And it's funny because it was like she called out ESPN. She called out the people that, like, didn't do right by the women's game. And she's like, see what you do when you put money into it and whatnot. And nobody on the panel knew what to say. And they were women. I'm like, listen, y'all, it's worth losing your job, right? It's worth, like, stand up for it. Dawn Staley is sitting here telling you, like, this is the first time y'all cared. And look at what happened. Like, you put the money into the men's game. You put the promotion into it. You tell people to watch, and they did. You put the money into the women's game. You promoted it. You told people to watch it, and they did. And when Dawn Staley was staying there, she didn't pull any punches. She said, I respect ESPN. I respect what y'all done. But, like, where have y'all been? And she had every right to say that.
Yeah, you know, and I really respect Dawn because she, you know, brought South Carolina from scratch, and, you know, she built that program. And there's so much more, you know, before, like, growing up, it was like UConn. You know, but now it's like you got South Carolina, you got UConn, you got Oregon, you got Louisville, you got NC State, you got Iowa, you got Maryland. You know, so it's like it's just a lot more even, I would say, in women's basketball now, where, you know, top recruits are making their own path, and UConn's not just getting all the top cats anymore. They're still getting a lot of them, you know, top 100 kids, but South Carolina's getting a lot of them. Oregon's getting a lot of them. You know, Stanford. You know, so I think it's just really cool to just see different teams, at the top now. You had a lot of mid-majors, the Princetons, the South Dakotas. Just seeing them go far in the tournament was really, really cool. Creighton. So it's fun to watch upsets. It's fun to watch teams be successful. It's cool to see mid-majors get some love. And I just thought the women's tournament was so fun to watch this year. A lot of close games, a lot of good games, the Final Four matchup. So, I think everything's going in the right direction. And I just think it's cool to see, people build things from scratch.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about that. When we've seen obviously the weight room discrepancy and the promotion discrepancy and not having the games on the air and not having all the rounds and not having as many teams. We in selection Monday instead of selection Sunday. We've seen changes that have happened, and it's funny. Nothing happens for decades, and then everything happens in 2 years.
Of course.
Where do you feel like the women's game is at right now?
I think it's, like I said, I still think there's a long way to go, but I think there's fans, and I think, like I just said, it's just fun to watch, and they're investing in it, and, Paige Beckers and them are getting NIL deals, and they got million viewers on Twitter and TikTok, and, I think it's at a really good place, but I think it could be even better, and I still think it could be more respected, and I think just little by little, I think we are going to get there, but, we have come a long, long way, but I want it even more. I want even more fans. I want even more people supporting. I want more people bringing their daughters to the game, and I know we can get there. It just takes time, but I think the NCAA keeps putting money into it. You're going to have people show up. So I think we're getting there, but we have a little bit longer to go.
Why do you think Dawn Staley has been so successful? What is it, four Final Fours in the last 7 years, the only 2 national championships in South Carolina history. How do you think she did it?
I think through hard work. I think, she started recruiting a lot of the top kids, and I think they wanted to play for her. She's a player's coach. People want to play for players' coaches. She's relatable. She went to Final Fours as a player, and she's one of those people you want to be close to. So I'm sure and another thing, I watched her interview one day about, when recruits come on the campus, she's honest. She's not promising you playing time. She's not promising you 1,000,001 things. She's real, and people want to play for people that are real, and I think she comes off as very real. And, I think that's how she did, just being a good person, genuine person that kids wanted to play for. She made South Carolina the cool thing. And they won a little bit, and people want to be a part of that. And then all the top kids started to come, and now that's the place to be. Everyone wants to go there. They're going to keep reloading every year. They got some of the class, they got 4 top 20 kids, that's, and she's able to manage all of that. She's able to manage egos. She had Cardosa there, who could have started and played 38 minutes for most teams in the country this year on the bench, and she had to manage that. And you got to manage the egos, and you got to manage the kids that don't play, but she showed love to them, and, I don't know behind the scenes what's going on, but you can tell that it's a mutual respect from everyone. And, people see that, and people want to be a part of that. So I think that's how she did it.
Yeah. And a note to that, and a huge note and a great point, managing the fact that you might have a superstar sitting there on your bench, and you got to find a way to balance it. And I always credit on the men's side of it, Tony Bennett, what he does in Virginia, that a guy will come in and have to wait 2 years, and then he'll get his shot, and then you see him play, and you're like, man, this guy's awesome. But they wait their turn, and they find success. So, I think it's a beautiful thing to see that. I think Gino Auriemma, what he does with UConn and what he's done for so long. Pat Summitt, may she rest in peace, and I still can't even fathom her not being here. But, at Tennessee and everything that she put forward, growing up as a kid, I knew about Gino, I knew about Pat. But, now you see Dawn Staley, and you see Felicia Leggett-Jack, and you see my girl Tammy Reese out of Rhode Island, my girl, Katie Kolinski, future head coach, in my opinion. So, but there's a lot to be said about the fact that there's so many great stories, and there's so many beautiful things. And if you close yourself off from the women's game, how do you not want to know Pat Summitt, and her fight, and the fact that everything she was going through physically, she was there for these women. She was coaching at a time where she, could have been at home in bed, trying to get better. I mean, everything that I've seen people go through on the women's side of the game, and when it's equality, when it's fighting for different things, I mean, it is so much fun to see that, like, Creighton made a move this year, right? And then everybody was Gonzaga's men's team, but then the women's team's going out there doing their thing. Like I said, my one of my good friends, Gina Castelli, who's on the staff of UAlbany, went up against Louisville and, had the opportunity to experience that down in Kentucky and whatnot. I mean, there's, seeing UCF out there, I've covered UCF sports for a while. So, and they went up against UConn this year. It's just great to watch it and to know that Gino is always going to be relevant, but people are coming, right? People are coming for that. And people aren't necessarily going to UConn, right? Dawn Staley's going to steal some people. There's coaches that are going to start to, the Stanfords of the world and the South Carolinas of the world.
Notre Dame, UCLA, yep.
Yeah, they're gonna start pulling, if they get just one, and then if they get one and it works out, they get two, then they get three. I mean, when you're building these powerhouses, it's not just UConn's game anymore. And I feel like that even more so, that it's taken forever for coverage to be here. But now that coverage is here, we could be talking about 4 teams, 6 teams, 8 teams, 7 teams, whatever, that could win a national championship in any given year. And that's going to create a lot of beauty in the game, that it's not just simply one overly dominant team. Now it's so much more, and it's so exciting. And Dawn Staley has this thing about her that can make you a fan of hers like that, like nothing.
It is. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun ride, and it's exciting. So hopefully more people will jump on. I'll even call it the bandwagon right now. You can jump on the bandwagon. It's okay. You can switch over and join the fun. So it'll be fun to see where it kind of all goes.
I got to go to one final point here, and I got to mention him because this is a gentleman. I didn't know that he knew who I was. I'm just doing my job, and you always hope that, like, your reputation precedes you, and you always hope it's positive. And I'm always doing, the best that I can do. And I'm believing in God. I'm being honest, my morals and my values. I love people and connecting with people and bringing people together. And, I'm just going in the locker room and doing interviews and, for Syracuse men's basketball, and week in and week out over the years. And this guy comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Dan, how you doing?" And I went, "Holy crap, somebody knows my name." And then he, again, "Hey, how's it?" And every time he sees me, it's like I'm an old friend. Ryan Kabilis, you mentioned him, director of strength and conditioning for men's basketball. And I'm so honored that I didn't care what Ryan's title was. I was just like blown away that somebody that I had not introduced myself to was like, "Hey, Dan, I see you." And I'm a big Ryan Kabilis fan. So I got to ask you just to speak a little bit further about your experience with him and why you think he's so special.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to like the Dawn Staley point, that he can connect to the guys. He's trustworthy for the guys. So, when you have someone that you can trust to get you better, it's going to make you want to be in the weight room a little bit more. And he puts hours and hours and hours in with those guys in that weight room, from the summer to the during the season, preseason, postseason. Like, he really gets those guys right. And, Coach Boeheim puts a trust in him that he knows what he's doing. And, he's just remarkable. That the crew there, him and Brad Pike, two amazing people that are behind the scenes with Syracuse basketball, but they're so good at what they do. And, like, even for Ryan, for me, he's still a mentor. I call him all the time, and, he'll talk me through situations or what I'm going through. And it could be, career related or whatever the case may be, but he always picks up. And, even last week I had texted him like, "Hey, I'm around Syracuse and I stopped by the Mello Center, and my daughter got to run around and she got to meet like Jesse Edwards and, D Nick." And it was just really cool, to be able to do that. But it's just because Ryan is so, like, it's family, like Syracuse basketball family, and Ryan's a big part of that family. And I know the guys trust him, and, he got Buddy right throughout the years, and he got a lot of those guys right. And, when the guys leave, they'll sign their sneaker and give it to him. So if you see outside his weight room, there's all these sneakers from Tyler Ennis, Jeremy Grant, Rakeem Christmas. So he's just a remarkable person.
Yeah. And it's great to connect with good people. And that's what it's all about. And in the world we live in, you and I get to meet a lot of people, which means we have the opportunity to meet a lot of good people and make a lot of cool connections. And, it's very rewarding. So with that being said, for Katie Kolinski, myself, Dan Tortora, I want to thank you, Katie, as always, for being a part of this, to speak on so many different topics and to get us really ramped up and just excited about women's basketball, which I love. I love that. And so, I'm proud of you, proud to call you my friend. It's always an honor of mine to have that. So the next time that you find yourself in the 315, I better get a text message. That's all I'm saying.
Dan, you already know. And I do actually have to give one shout out to Coach Jack for getting the Syracuse job, because it's very well deserved. And she gave me my first opportunity outside of being a grad assistant. So she believed in me and she gave me that opportunity. So, I had to give her a shout out for that. And, I think it's really cool that she gets to coach back at Syracuse, our alma mater. And like I said, get your popcorn ready, because she's coming. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and really awesome. And I know she did that. So she's always meant something to me, because she gave you an opportunity with Buffalo, and now being in Syracuse. It's just a beautiful thing to see this happening for Felicia Leggett-Jack to become the new head coach of women's basketball at Syracuse. And, to have that connection with you and that opportunity that was given to you out in Buffalo was awesome, was an awesome thing, and definitely made me appreciate Felicia before any of this happened in my hometown. So big ups to Felicia, and thank you for giving an opportunity to an incredible person. So always good to talk to you, Katie, and thank you so much.
Always.
That coming once again from Katie Kolinski, hanging out with us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, with so many different pieces, right? Being a parent, being a single parent, being an assistant coach, living your dreams, her connection with Felicia Leggett-Jack at Buffalo, with her first opportunity coming out of Syracuse. And now, ironically, we have Felicia Leggett-Jack in Syracuse. Katie speaking on the world of women's basketball and where we've come and where we were, and, things of hopes of where we can go with women's basketball. Such an incredible conversation about where we are in women's sports and the evolution of women's basketball, and what we have seen this season and where we could go with that. Hearing from two incredible women who I love talking with about so many different things, that being Gabby Holko and Katie Kolinski, good friends, good people, and people that I think, deserve to be represented. I believe we should be in a world where we are all well represented. And if one of us is not represented, if one of us is not appreciated, if one of us is not respected for being a good human being, for, trying to help, and, I think everybody deserves to be respected. I'm very proud of my heritage. I'm very proud to be a man. I'm proud to be a person. I'm proud to be Hispanic. I'm proud to be Italian. I'm proud that if we have family that extends out to the Sudan and some other things we've thought about and, potentially realized about our family lineage, then I'm proud about that too. I am proud to be a believer in God. I am proud to be constantly putting God at the center of my life. You should be proud to be who you are, right? You should be proud to have the skin you're in. You should be proud to be the person that you are and love who you love and do what you do. If you're a good person and you're going out there and you're helping people, you have nothing to apologize for. And, a world that treats everybody equally is a world that I want to live in. It's a world I want to help to create with God. And I know that I could do nothing without him. So I pray and I hope for the aid and the love and the the faith that we need to get there. So for Gabby Holko, for Katie Kolinski, for the incredible and, as always, awesome Papa Joe here talking with us today, I want to thank you for being a part of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Cafe Kubal studios. You can find us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, watching on Facebook in two places, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/live-now-dt, YouTube as well.com/wakeupcalldt, and of course, you're listening on worldwide streaming radio on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage. So however you're connecting with the show, thank you so much. Once the show goes live, they go into our archives. You can check out our YouTube specials, our exclusive on the reclassification and realignment conversation I had with Lemoyne College Athletics Director Bob Beretta on the potential and the fact that Lemoyne is looking at staying D2 and also looking at D1 and D3 as potential reclassification in this realignment. So that exclusive special is there for you on YouTube right now and on Facebook, both youtube.com, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt for both of those. Of course, my Colgate Corner special with Matt Langle is there with the Raiders head coach for men's basketball, so you definitely want to check that out. And there's so much more, over 1,500 shows on Podbean alone. You can go to Stitcher, TuneIn, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Spotify, MixLR, YouTube, and iTunes and Apple Podcasts as well. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, to get all of our content, so make sure you do that today. And of course, I want to give a special thank you to all of our Central and Upstate New York partners. A big thanks to Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, PB&J's Lunchbox, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Avicoli's, Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Millhouse Market, Honda City of Liverpool, Pizza Man, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, and Mother's Cupboard. And of course, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the proud multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It is fins up all day, every day, and all throughout the month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And of course, you could find the Dolphin Time coming to you. Set it every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. The Dolphins have a spot every week in our coverage here year-round on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And our Dolphin Time starts every first and third Wednesday of the month with AD and DT, Athletics Director Bob Beretta, and myself, Dan Tortora, telling the stories of Lemoyne with a behind-the-scenes look from the eyes of the athletic department head, Mr. Bob Beretta. And of course, every second and fourth Wednesday with the Dolphin Dive, where we dive into stories throughout the year from student-athletes, coaches, administration, as well as future Dolphins and alumni, telling their stories, their why for Lemoyne, and their journey along the way to get there, and everything that they have achieved while being at Lemoyne. So very excited about our Dolphin Dive conversations that we get to have, and we'll have one coming up this coming week. And of course, you can check all of our content with the Lemoyne Dolphins on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe on the Lemoyne tab of wakeupcalldt.com, and of course on our social media. Find out more information at lemoynedolphins.com. The Marywood Pacers are also an exclusive multimedia marketing partner of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We are so proud to be with the Pacers, and every single Friday we round out the week with Pacer Pride. Pacer Pride specials coming to you at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Fridays throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, with unprecedented coverage of the Marywood University Pacers like you've never had it before. You can check out your Pacers with us on Friday, and of course on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, the Marywood tab on wakeupcalldt.com, and get more information at marywoodpacers.com. The Bobcats of Bryan and Stratton College in Syracuse are also an exclusive proud multimedia marketing partner here with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Bobcat Buzz specials air every single month for you all throughout the year as we center on the Bobcats' stories and go well beyond wins and losses. Speaking with Nick Dmitrievsky, as well as Alex Grigorita, Clay Gagan-Sherman, Sean Peak, and more. Check out all of our specials by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe and the BSCSYR tab. We had 3 incredible specials over the last 2 weeks with Clay Gagan-Sherman, Nick Dmitrievsky, and Alex Grigorita. You can see all of them by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, the BSCSYR tab on wakeupcalldt.com as well. And, of course, you can get more information by going to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. As I stated before, make sure you follow us on our social media for all of our content. Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, the Twitters at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. A big thanks to Papa Joe, and many prayers being sent his way for a healthy, speedy and blessed recovery, that where he hopefully heals from everything that's been going on. He gets to have all of his surgeries, that he heals completely and for good, and no matter what, God, that he heals through you. I have nothing but love for a father figure in my life, and I tremendously appreciate everything that has been given to me through my relationship with Papa Joe. So God, please take care of him and Mary and Joey and Kayla and Lily and all of them. And God bless, as always, and Aunt Jeannie and everyone. So, and Aunt Maureen and my cousin Jessica, and my cousin Jeremy. God bless you all now and forever. For Papa Joe, for Gabby Holko, for Katie Kolinski, for all of their loved ones, and for you, from the Cafe Kubal Studios, I hope you have a fantastic day. And as always, God bless, no stress. Do your best. We'll talk soon.